Hello, everybody, and welcome to what may very well be the, I don't know, the biggest crap fest of 2020. No, actually, no, I think that's pretty hard to beat. This is definitely nowhere near the biggest crap fest of 2020, but it's going to be interesting. Donald Trump and Joe Biden debate starts in 8 minutes. Just before we get everything set up, we just want to introduce our senior political analysts tonight. Of course, you know me. I'm the politicrat. And right here, we have Alkazei. How about you introduce yourself? I mean, you've been on my.
I've been on the stream, but
so just
I'm
state what just state your opinions, who you think you're going to be voting for, and what your expectations or lack thereof are for the debate tonight.
So I'm a center right neoliberal who's dead set on voting for Joe Biden. My expectations for the debate are actually quite low. I think Biden's gonna look better simply because the expectations for him are so low. So all he has to do is not die on stage. Because people haven't.
I mean, yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
At least people online.
I hope not. I hope he doesn't die on stage. That would be sad.
I hope he doesn't die on stage either. But like people for months have been hyping up. It's like, oh my god, Biden's gonna be crushing the debate. So if he simply just doesn't not suck, if he does an average or mediocre performance, he'll come out looking way better than he probably did if the expectations weren't so low, and that'll play into his favor probably.
Okay. And I think you're not done. Okay, keep going.
No, that's it. I just think that's the best assessment.
Okay, well, welcome back, Alkazei. And also returning, we have our good friend, TheMop. TheMop, as of now, I think you're actually the person who's been on my streams the most out of anybody. So congratulations. Give yourself a pat on the back.
All right. I don't like either candidate particularly well. I guess you could call me an undecided voter, but that doesn't really matter since I live in California. My expectations are fairly low. I think that, I think that all Biden really needs to do is have a pulse and knock back any of the softballs they throw at him. And Trump's going to do what he always does, which is kind of just say shit, whether or not it's true. And the media will get mad at him, whether or not, no matter what he says. So, yeah.
I think that is a fair assessment, honestly.
Yeah.
At this point. I don't particularly like Trump, but as somebody, I see myself as a relatively honest person. So when the media will mischaracterize him, I'll be like, hey, wait a second there. And I'll do the same if they do it to Joe Biden too. So anyway, so I just want to give my 2 cents. Just like you guys, did you guys watch the 2016 debates between Hillary and Trump?
Yeah, I did. I watched all of them with my family.
Oh yeah, same here. I remember. That was back. I think that was my sophomore year of college, maybe. Yeah, 2016. Yeah, that was my sophomore year of college. But yeah, so I remember. I find it funny that even though Hillary won the debates, Trump still won the debates.
Yeah, well.
No, because the thing is, she won as per the rules of the debates, but Donald Trump still won the debates because he just went against every expectation.
I have a feeling that unless polling, and you guys can answer me this because I legitimately don't know, if polling methodology hasn't changed significantly since 2016, we're kind of setting ourselves up for 2016 too.
Oh, Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, Biden is basically just Hillary, except people are more apathetic about him.
I think he's a little better than Hillary.
No, that's such a bad characterization of the situation.
I don't think he's that much like Hillary, but they're in the same camp.
Okay, well, hold on. There's a few distinctions.
Slightly right of center Democrats.
The polls were not entirely wrong in 2016. The national polling was more accurate in 2016 than it was in 2012. And the only place where they were polling really dropped the ball was in Wisconsin, where they had Hillary up 7 points before the election. But that's because they stopped polling a week out before the election, and they weren't able to catch the last-minute shifts in those states. But if you look at Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Ohio, those swing states, the polls were within the margin of error in those places. It's just that, like, when you have the Huffington Post being massive retards and putting like 98.9% chance of Hillary winning or whatever.
I get you.
Yeah, it's just I hate that.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I mean,
Nothing's real anymore. Who cares?
Yeah. You know what? I'll get you there. I don't like that either. That kind of like just post fucking real shit. You know, post truth or whatever. That shit's cringe.
The anti-SJWs are postmodernists when a convenience to them.
postmodern
really real.
Yeah. Okay. So can somebody? Is it just me, or does it kind of annoy you when people say like postmodern cultural Marxists or what? Because those are two completely different things, like two completely different schools of thought, and they absolutely hate each other. Because the thing is, postmodernists, like their entire shtick is about sterilizing meta narratives and tearing them apart. Whereas like the Frankfurt School, I don't like the term cultural Marxism, because that kind of harkens back to Hitler's idea of cultural Bolshevism. So I just think it's not a good term for optics. But I mean, essentially, it is referring to the Frankfurt School. But the thing is, they have a meta narrative. So by default, it is immediately in contradiction to the principles of postmodernism.
You are, but the thing is, a lot of Marxists today still draw a lot of influence from postmodern thinkers.
Yeah.
So
they hate Foucault though for some reason.
Theoretically, they should hate each other, but there's a lot of overlap because they still draw a lot of influence from postmodern thought, at least today.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think that's what it's referring to, but I still think it's kind of stupid because it's not universally true.
Yeah, I can see that. Anyway, so it is 8:59. I'm going to get this crap fest started.
I better be able to hear this.
Okay, I think it's on. It's Fox Business, I think. Yeah. Do you guys see the screen?
In like 440p.
There you guys see it now.
Yeah, it got kicked up a little bit. Okay. Oh god, that is low quality, man.
Is it? It looks fine to me.
Let me check.
You know what? I'm just gonna watch. I can't even hear. I'm just gonna watch the C-SPAN one.
It is on C-SPAN. That's right. Okay. I'm going back. I'm going to C-SPAN now. We're playing it live on here, so.
Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Do it live.
God damn it.
Who was that? Was that like what, Bill O'Reilly or something?
Why can't I hear the C-SPAN one? What the fuck?
Bill Clinton's there.
With his child.
Oh shit! Oh, this is the wrong one.
Well, thank you. Are you a teacher?
Are you? Are you a teacher?
I teach life. Anyway.
Why can't
President
I hear?
Second president. I think it's only on Fox Business actually.
Oh, CBS is running it.
Why don't we just watch? Why are you watching it alone?
Well, okay. I'm just gonna watch.
Oh,
I'm gonna watch.
It's down. It's down. Go down. Oh, you missed it.
I accidentally did. Washington Post.
Okay,
NBC.
I think what the three of us should do is that we should watch our own streams so we don't have to fucking rely on like.
No, we should all watch the same. Oh shit! It's starting.
Great. Do the CBS one. The CBS one was working good.
CBS.
Or C-SPAN.
Yeah, I'll just do CBS.
Wasn't working. C-SPAN wasn't working.
Western Reserve University in
Okay.
Cleveland a short time ago. They are not expected to shake hands because of the coronavirus pandemic.
Oh, that's
And let's
why they're
forget,
not
as we
shaking
come
hands
on the air
because of the
tonight, this virus
coronavirus.
has killed more than
Yeah, why don't you think?
205,000 Americans. This
No, I don't know.
pandemic has led the U.S. into its worst economic
Being
contraction
dumb
since the Great
crap.
Depression. More than 26 million Americans are claiming unemployment benefits, and two late developments have thrown a lit match into an already volatile race. The Republicans' effort to quickly replace the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg with conservative Judge Amy Coney Barrett, and the latest revelations about President Trump's taxes.
So the stage is
okay,
set
hot
for
take.
this first showdown.
If
There will be
you
no
somehow
opening
manage to find a
statements.
way to get out of
Chris
paying
Wallace
like
of
income
Fox
tax,
News will be
you
asking
like
the
your
questions. He
reward.
was
You should get a
chosen by
reward,
the
and that
Presidential
reward
Debate
is like you
Commission,
shouldn't have to pay
and
income
he's
tax, and you
identified
just won in
6
life. That's
main
my hot take.
topics: the Trump and Biden
Like you just win.
records, the Supreme
That like you
Court,
know you've won life when you get out of paying
COVID-19,
income
the
tax.
economy, race and violence in cities, and the integrity of the election.
It is going to be quite a night ahead. Let's
Women
bring in
should pay a
CBS's Ben Tracy at the
100%
White House.
income
And Ben,
tax.
what are you hearing from the Trump campaign?
Well, Nora, we're hearing that President Trump is ready to joust and that he feels that Joe Biden's family and his cognitive abilities are fair game in this debate. Now, the president is expecting the first question out of the gate will be about his taxes, these revelations that he basically did not pay any federal income tax for years. We're also told by the campaign as they're trying to play down the president's preparation for this debate that he actually has been practicing, and they say he's ready for any question that may come his way.
Ben Tracy, let's turn now to CBS's Ed O'Keefe. He is in the debate hall where the anticipation is building. Ed?
Nora, good evening. Once they get rocking and rolling here in Cleveland tonight, expect
Once they get
Biden to
rocking
focus
and
on
do
two
you
key
get
things,
it?
the president's
Once they get
taxes
rocking and
and his
rolling
handling of the
tonight here in
coronavirus
Cleveland,
pandemic and the
it's the
economic
Cleveland
downturn.
Rock
His
and
aides
Roll
believe
Hall of
if he keeps
Fame.
focused on those two issues, he can maintain his lead in battleground states. One thing we shouldn't expect Biden to do tonight is serve as a real-time
kind of a
fact
boomer
checker.
joke.
He'd suggested earlier this month that's what he wanted to do. His aides now say he'll instead try speaking directly to the American people. Here in the room tonight, we count about 107 invited guests. That's down from the usual 900 who observe these debates in person. Nora?
Ed O'Keefe, thank you. And John, does Trump know that he has to change the trajectory of this race as it stands now?
Absolutely. You can hear Ben Tracy say it, which is he's going to be going at all over the place because he wants to shake things up. That's always been his way.
The debate is about to begin. Here now, the moderator, Chris Wallace.
Good evening from the Health Education campus of Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland
And so
Clinic.
it begins.
I'm Chris Wallace of Fox News, and I welcome you to the first of the 2020
He's like one of the only actual
presidential
anchors on
debates
Fox News.
between President
He is.
Donald
He's
J.
the only
Trump
actual one, I
and
think.
former Vice
I'd say
President Joe
Brett
Biden.
Baer too.
This debate is
I don't
sponsored
know.
by the Commission on
Nah,
Presidential
Tucker
Debate.
Carlson is an
The
unbiased
Commission has
source of
designed the
news.
format.
Oh, yeah,
roughly
totally.
15-minute segments.
I get all
with
of my
2-minute
opinions from
answers
Tucker
each
Carlson,
candidate to the
guys.
first question.
Dude, Tucker
Then
Carlson.
open
Well, imagine
discussion
that,
for
but
the rest of
unironically,
each
that would be
segment.
Tucker Carlson's such a
Both
grifter. Like,
campaigns
he's
have
such an
agreed to
idiot,
these rules.
and he knows
For
it.
the
I think he's a
record,
broken
I
clock
decided the
because, like, when
topics
he's right,
and
when
the
he's
questions
actually
in
right,
each topic,
like those
I can
few
assure
times
you,
he
none
is,
of the
he's like
questions
really,
has
really
been
right.
shared with the commission or
Right.
the two candidates. This debate is being conducted
Like I
under
like some of
health
his
and safety
Alkazei's going to
protocols
disagree with me,
designed
but I
by
like
the
some of his
Cleveland
foreign
Clinic,
policy takes.
which is serving as the health
Oh.
security advisor
Yeah,
to
I
the
cannot
commission
think
for
of
His
all
worst
four
takes are his
debates.
immigration takes,
As a
though.
precaution, both campaigns have agreed
Imagine
the
being
candidates
anti-immigration.
will not shake hands
Oh my
at
God,
the beginning
his
of
takes
tonight's
also
debate.
unlike the
The
white
audience
genocide,
here in the
quote
hall
unquote
has
white
promised
genocide
to
in South
remain
Africa.
silent. No cheers, no boos.
Weren't they doing
or
something?
other
Weren't they like trying
interruptions,
to
so
like
we,
take
and
away
more
farms
importantly,
though,
you
or was that a
can focus
conspiracy?
on what the candidates have to say.
It was, but
No
the thing
noise
is, there was
except
already
right
land being
now,
sold to black farmers.
as we welcome the
like,
Republican nominee,
Okay, let's-
President
fucked
Trump,
up, but it wasn't. I
and
don't
the
think it was.
Democratic
Trumpty
nominee,
Dumpty.
Vice
He's coming.
President Biden.
All right. shut up.
Oh, here he comes.
Oh, he'll cheer you up. It's so quiet. I like it. They should have had no audience. These claps are so pathetic.
Gentlemen, a lot of people have been waiting for this night, so let's get going. Our first subject is the Supreme Court. President Trump, you nominated Amy Coney Barrett over the weekend to succeed the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the court. You say the Constitution is clear about your obligation and the Senate's to consider a nominee to the court. Vice President Biden, you say that this is an effort by the president and Republicans to jam through an appointment and what you call an abuse of power. My first question to both of you tonight, why are you right in the argument you make and your opponent wrong? And where do you think a Justice Barrett would take the court? President Trump, in this first segment, you go first, 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chris. I will tell you very simply, we won the election. Elections have consequences. We have the Senate. We have the White
He's
House.
just saying the
and
most obvious
we
thing.
have a phenomenal nominee,
Yeah, but my
respected by all, top
Republicans,
academic,
2016
good in every
you
way,
know.
good in every way. In
Yeah, they're
fact,
hypocrites.
some of her biggest
They're
endorsers
all
are
hypocrites.
very
Everybody's a
liberal
fucking
people
hypocrite.
from Notre Dame and other places. So I think she's going to be fantastic. We have plenty of time. Even if we did it after the election itself.
Oh, it's
I have
a
lot
professor of
time
mine.
after the
She's
election,
watching.
as you know. So I think that she will be outstanding. She's going to be as good as anybody that has served on that court. We really feel that. We have a professor at Notre Dame, highly respected by all, said she's the single greatest student he's ever had. He's been a professor for a long time at a great school. And we just
call her
won the election, and therefore we
call
have
her.
the right.
Did he
to
just
choose
call her a she?
And
or
very few
did he
people
just call her a
knowingly
he?
would say otherwise. And by the
I
way,
don't
the
know. I wasn't
Democrats,
paying attention.
they wouldn't even think about not doing it. If they
Hello.
had, the only difference is they try and do it faster. There's no way they would give it up. They had Merrick Garland, but the problem is they didn't have the election, so they were stopped. And probably that would happen in reverse also. Definitely would happen in reverse.
Yo, Alkazei,
So
I know
we
you
won
and I
the
could agree on
election,
this,
and
but
we have the right to
McConnell,
do it, Chris.
such a hypocrite right
President
I
now.
know,
Trump,
that's
thank
the thing.
you.
That's what pisses me off.
Same question
At
to
this
you,
point,
Vice
it's just
President
Machiavellian
Biden. You have
politics.
2
Do
minutes.
It's
do
not
you
even-
honestly
First
think
of
any of
all,
these people have integrity?
No.
I want to hear what Joey
doing
says.
this and looking
Thank
forward to this, Mr.
Thank you,
President.
Joe.
The American people have a right to have a say in who the Supreme Court nominee is. And that say occurs when they vote for a United States senators and when they vote for the President of the United States.
Oh, thank God! I thought he was going to say we
They're
have to.
not
We
gonna
should
get
start
that
voting for
chance
justices.
now
That
because
would be-
we're in the middle of
that
an
would be
election
scary.
already. The election has already started. Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is, because that's the only way the American people get to express their view is by who they elect as president and who they elect as vice president. Now, what's at stake here is the president's made it clear he wants to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. He's been running on that. He ran on that, and he's been governing on that. He's in the Supreme Court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which will strip 20 million people from having insurance, health insurance now, if it goes into court, and the justice. And I have nothing. I'm not opposed to the justice. She seems like a very fine person, but she's written before she went on the bench, which is her right, that she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not constitutional. The other thing that's on the court, and if it's struck down, what happens? Women's rights are fundamentally changed. Once again, a woman could be pay more money because she has a pre-existing condition of pregnancy. They were able to charge a woman more for the same exact procedure a man gets. And that ended when we, in fact, passed the Affordable Care Act. And there's 100 million people who have pre-existing conditions, and they'll be taken away as well. Those pre-existing conditions, the insurance companies are going to love this. And so it's just not appropriate to do this before this
Billy, I thought
election.
insurance companies
If he
cared for
wins
us,
the
cared about
election
us.
And the Senate is Democrat or Republican,
Private
then he goes forward. If not, we should wait until February. All right.
There aren't 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. As far as the say is concerned, the people already had their say. Okay, Justice Ginsburg said very powerfully, very strongly, at some point, 10 years ago or so, she said a president and the Senate is elected for a period of time, but a president's elected for 4 years. We're not elected for 3 years. I'm not elected for 3 years. So we have the Senate, we have a president.
He's elected to the next
During
election.
that period of time, we have an opening. I'm not elected for 3 years. I'm elected for 4 years.
The
And the
election's
100
already
million
started.
people, Joe, the 100 million people is totally wrong. I don't know where you got that number.
Joe.
Oh,
That
he
you have
cocks to
is
him.
that
Joe
you're going
lost.
to extinguish 180
Nah, it's not over
million
yet.
people with
Nah, he
their
lost.
private health care that they're very
That's
happy
simply
with.
not true.
Well, you're certainly going to
Let-
socialist.
Go
You're
ahead.
going to socialist medicine.
We're now into, gentlemen, we're now into open discussion.
Open discussion.
Open
Oh,
discussion.
God.
Call them a
Yes, I agree.
socialist?
Go ahead, Vice
I'm
President.
going to try to get.
How many minutes is this? How long
He
did it take
knows
to
that
say
what I
socialist?
proposed.
That
What
was
I
like 5
proposed
minutes.
Is that we expand
2 minutes.
Obamacare.
Oh, I wish I could get
and we
my
increase it. We do
like
not
get an
want
ANCOM
any-
on
and
here,
One of the big debates
and
we had
then
with
I could get
23 of my
a
colleagues trying to win the
Catholic
nomination that I
reactionary
won,
on here
were
too,
saying
so we
that
could just
Biden
have that
wanted to
juxtaposition.
allow people to have private insurance still. They can. They do. They will under my proposal.
It's not what you've said,
But
and it's not what
that
your
is-
party has said.
That is simply
Your party
a lie.
doesn't say it. Your party
is
wants to
simple.
go socialist.
My
medicine
party is
and
me.
socialist
Right
healthcare.
now,
My party is
and
me.
they're going to dominate you, Joe. You know that.
I am the Democratic Party right now. The platform of the Democratic
God.
Party is
We're
what
in a long,
I,
we're in for a long
fact,
hour and a half,
approved
boys.
of,
We
what
are.
I approved of.
Bruh,
Now, here's the deal.
moments.
The deal is that it's going to wipe out pre-existing conditions. And by the way, the 200,000 people that have died on his watch, how many of those have survived? Well, there's 7 million people that contracted COVID. What does it mean for them going forward if you strike down the Affordable Care Act? And
Joe, you've had
pre-existing
308,000 military people dying because you couldn't provide them proper health care in the military. So don't tell me
I'm
about
happy
this.
to talk about
And if
this.
you were here,
Look,
it
here's
wouldn't
the
be
deal.
200, it would be 2 million people because you were very late on the draw. You
Late
didn't
on
want
the
me to
draw.
ban China, which was heavily infected. You didn't want me to ban
All right, gentlemen,
Europe, which
no,
was heavily
Mr. President,
infected. You would have
Mr.
been much
President,
later, Joe.
Mr.
Much
President,
later.
Ban
Mr.
Europe,
President,
ban
2
Europe.
million people.
President, as
shut
a
him.
moderator, we are going to talk about COVID in the next segment, but
Well,
go ahead.
Let me finish. The point
Yeah,
is that
I know
the
Chris
president
Wallace is a
also
Republican, but
is
is
opposed
he
to
one of
Roe
like
v.
more on the
Wade.
anti-Trump train?
That's on the
Oh
ballot
my
as
God,
well.
he
In
hates
the
Trump.
court.
He
In the
fucking
court.
hates Trump.
And so that's
Like,
also at stake.
he's not very
right
expressive
now.
about it because he
And
tries
so
to be
the
neutral, but
election is
like you
all
can
You don't
fucking
know it's on the ballot.
talk to him
Why
like,
is it on the
holy
ballot?
shit, this guy's a
because
retard.
Why
because
is it
you
on the
said
This is
ballot?
worse
It's
than
on the ballot.
2016, right,
it's
guys?
on the ballot in the
I
court.
don't think so.
In the court. Well,
There's nothing happening there.
Donald, would you
And you
just be
don't
quiet
know
for a minute?
her view on Roe v. Wade. You
I
don't know
don't
her
know.
view.
Well, all right, let's
Funny
talk.
is, Trump isn't even
We got a lot to
pro-life.
unpack here,
He's
gentlemen. We got a
just
lot of
drifting.
time.
So
On health care,
Like
and
Trump
then we'll come back to
Trump
Roe
doesn't
v.
care.
Wade.
All right.
It's
Mr.
kind of funny.
President, the
And
Supreme
he's just
Court
saying
will
it. He's
hear
trying to
a case
attract like
a week after
the
the
evangelical,
election in
like,
which the
Calvinist
Trump
base.
administration, along with 18 state
yeah,
attorneys
I think
general,
Calvinists
are
communists.
seeking
I'm
to
gonna-
overturn
That's right.
Obamacare, to end Obamacare. You have spent the last
Because they
Let me-
want to
if
give
I-
good
if I-
health care.
If I may ask
Go
my
ahead.
question, sir.
Good health care.
Over the last 4 years, you have promised to repeal and replace Obamacare, but you have never in these 4 years come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan
Yes,
to
I have.
replace Obamacare.
Of course I have.
Dude, you literally
I got
haven't.
rid of the
I'm-
individual
I'm-
mandate.
I'm-
He's gonna-
Excuse me.
he's
I got
dropping
rid of
the
individual
mixtape
mandate,
right
which was
now.
a big
It's not a
chunk of Obama.
comprehensive
That
plan.
is absolutely a big thing. That was the worst
I
part of
didn't ask you,
Obamacare.
sir.
Chris,
You're
that was the
debating him,
worst
not
part of
me.
Obama.
Let me ask my question.
Well, I'll ask Joe. The individual mandate was the most unpopular
Vice
aspect of
Wallace,
Mr.
Obamacare. I got
President,
rid of
right
it.
I'd like you
And we
to-
will protect
Mr.
people with
President, I'm the
pre-existing
moderator of this
conditions.
debate, and I would like you to let me ask my question, and then you can answer.
Go
your
ahead.
question. You, in the course of these 4
Let's
years,
do
have
the
never
Discord
come up
call,
with a
honestly,
comprehensive
This is
plan
already
to
awful.
replace
This is already
Obamacare.
terrible.
And just this last Thursday, you signed a
right,
largely
I'm gonna pull up the
symbolic
Natty Light.
executive
Okay.
order to protect people with
Yeah, what y'all drinking
pre-existing
tonight?
conditions
Mop,
5
you having
days
anything?
before this debate.
Water?
So my question, sir,
Yeah,
is what
I'm having
is
lemonade.
the Trump
Alcohol
healthcare
is the great
plan?
Satan.
First of all, I guess I'm
Alkazei
debating
has
you,
Natty
not
Light.
him, but that's okay.
Oh,
I'm not
Natty Light?
surprised. Let me just tell you something.
Nasty.
There's
No
nothing
laws when you're
symbolic.
drinking the
We're
club.
cutting drug prices. I'm going with favored nations, which no president has the courage to do because you're going against big pharma. Drug prices will be coming down 80 or 90%. You
Guys
could
are
have done it
having
during your
price
47-year
growth.
period in government, but you didn't do it. Nobody's done it. So we're cutting health care.
What about
All of the
pre-existing
things that
conditions?
we've done,
He has not cut
insulin. I
healthcare.
give you an example. Insulin. It was destroying families, destroying people because I'm getting it for so cheap. It's like water. You want to know the truth? So cheap. Take a look at
The
all
insulin
the
will
drugs
flow
that
like
what we're
water.
doing,
So
prescription
This is
drug
already
prices.
no
We're gonna
okay.
allow our
This is
governors now to
actually
go
worse
to other
than I
countries
thought
to
it was
buy
going to be.
drugs.
When in
They
fact-
This is
pay just
actually
a tiny
fucking clown
fraction.
world
This is
insane.
open discussion.
No,
Let
but
me
this
ask
is-
you
This
Well,
isn't even a
this is
debate.
happy
This is
stuff,
just
sir.
like this is a
You'll be
comedy
happy.
routine.
I'm about to
Dude, this
pick
is
up on one
literally
of your
just like
points
Chris Wallace
to
versus
ask the
Trump.
vice president, which is he points out that you would like to add a public option to Obamacare, and
Yes.
the argument that he makes and other Republicans make is that that is going to end private insurance.
It is
and
not.
well,
I'm
I
sorry.
ask you the question. It will
Not what
end.
your party says, by the way.
It will end private insurance and create a government takeover of health care.
It does not. It's only for those people who are so poor they qualify for Medicaid. They can get that free in most states, except governors who want to deny people who are poor Medicaid. Anyone who qualifies for Medicare.
So you know how people talk about how
Medicaid would
Biden's in cognitive
be
decline,
enrolled in
which
the
I'm not.
public
I don't
option.
necessarily
The vast
disagree with.
majority of the American people would still
Because it
not
seems
be
he pretty
in
much is. It
that
seems
option.
like, however,
Number one.
Joe, you
Number
agreed
two.
with
He seems
Bernie
more lucid
Sanders'
today.
far
He
left
does.
on the manifesto.
And I feel like
Let's
he's
just
probably
you
on
socialized
Adderall.
medicine.
Yeah.
Look, hey,
Are you
I'm
saying
not
you
going to
didn't
listen to
agree?
him.
I mean,
The fact
not
of the
that
matter
there's
is,
anything wrong
I
with
beat Bernie
that.
Sanders.
Look, Fat.
I don't
Listen,
think-
Fat. Look,
I
Fat.
beat him a whole hell of a lot. I'm here standing facing you, buddy.
Pocahontas would have left 2 days
I tell
earlier.
you, all he knows how
What
to
was
do
Trump
is
even trying to
Tuesday.
say?
You got
He's talking about Elizabeth
I got
Warren
very
now.
lucky. I'm going to get very lucky tonight as well. And tonight I'm going to make sure, because here's the deal. Here's the deal. The fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
But you
I just
agree.
want to
Hey,
make
Joe,
sure.
Joe, you're the liar.
I want to make sure.
You graduated last in your class, not first in your class.
I want to make
Mr.
sure.
President, can you let him finish, sir?
No, he doesn't know how to do that. He has,
You'd be
you know,
surprised.
Literally.
you pick
You'd be surprised.
the
Biden
wrong
like
guy, the
almost
wrong
30
night,
years
at the
ago.
wrong time.
Listen,
Like
you
Trump
agreed
lied
with
Here's the
Bernie
deal.
Sanders to the
The
manifesto.
whole idea.
Let him-
disavow.
There is no manifesto, number
Please
one.
let him speak, Mr.
Number
President.
two.
You just lost the left.
Number two.
Oh my God.
You
Well, how
agreed
is he
with Bernie
shitposting
Sanders on a
100%?
plan.
Folks,
Absolutely
folks,
agreed
do you
to.
have any
Going
idea
too
what
retarded.
this clown's
Socialized, they
doing?
call it
Mr.
You never
you
go
have
full
any-
retard, man.
socialized medicine.
Mr.
This
President,
is really dumb.
He is not for any help for people needing health care because
If his base wanted it, like honestly,
cost 10 million
I feel like if
people their
all of his
healthcare
base
that they
demanded
have
that he
from
be for it,
employers
he would be.
because of his recession.
Because that's
Number
basically,
two,
yeah, I mean, because he's a
20 million
populist.
people
Yeah,
getting
literally.
health care through
Trump,
Obamacare
no,
now
literally,
that
Trump
he
said,
wants
I'm
to
taking
take it
Medicare for
away.
all. They try to
He
spin it
won't ever look you in the eye and say that's what he wants
Yeah,
to do.
like Alkazei,
Take it
you'd
away.
characterize
I
Trump
want
as
to
a
give them
populist,
better
right?
health care at a much lower
Yeah.
price. Because
by the
Obama
way,
very
he
worst.
doesn't know how. He doesn't know how
I've
to do
already
that.
fixed it.
He has never.
You think,
already
okay, so
fixed
if you had
it
a
to an
choice,
extent.
would you
He
vote
has never done
Bernie
a
or
single
Trump
thing.
if it was
But
like
probably
you had a gun to
does
your
it.
head,
Obamacare
a gun to your
You
head?
realize if you're
I'll
both
take
speaking
none.
at the same time,
And it's too
let,
expensive.
Really?
let the president. Go ahead, sir.
Obamacare
Yeah, I'll take
is
none.
no good. We made it better. And I had a choice to make very
I'd
early
vote
on.
for
We
Bernie
took away the
Sanders.
individual mandate. We guarantee pre-existing
probably
conditions, but took away the individual
Vote
mandate.
Sanders and then just vote
Listen,
all
this is the way
Republican
it
for the
is.
next
But
4 years.
I'd vote
That-
Sanders
they shouldn't
because
even call it
I want
Obamacare.
to see
Then
what
I
would
had a choice to
happen.
make. Do
Like
I let my
I think
people
I
run
like
it
Trump's
really
policy,
well
just like
or
because I'm
badly?
slightly
If I
right
run
wing,
it
you know,
badly,
better
they'll
than Bernie's.
probably
For
blame him, but they'll blame me.
reasons
But
with,
more
like,
importantly, I want to help people.
you know,
Okay? I said, you
hey,
gotta run
I mean,
it so well.
will the right riot? Like the left is rioting currently?
No matter
Will
how
we see more
well
civil unrest?
Obamacare,
What will happen?
it's a
Curiosity.
disaster. It's too
I'd probably do what you did.
Premiums
I'd
are too
vote
high.
Bernie and
That
then vote
doesn't
hard
work.
down.
That's
So
what people
we
say.
do want to get rid of it.
It's
Chris,
an
we
open-
want to get rid of it.
I
and
understand
give
it, sir, but
something
I have to
cheaper
give
and
you
better.
roughly equal time.
Good.
Please let the vice president talk.
Good.
He has no plan for health care.
Yes, we do.
Please.
He sends out wishful thinking. He has executive orders that have no power. He hasn't lowered drug costs for anybody. He's been promising a health care plan since he got elected. He has none, like almost everything else he talks about. He does not have a plan. He doesn't have a plan. And the fact is, this man doesn't know what he's talking about.
All right.
He's
I have one final question for you,
Sure.
Mr. Vice President. If Senate Republicans, we were talking originally about the Supreme Court here, if Senate Republicans go ahead and confirm Justice Barrett, there has been talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices there. You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact, it wasn't brought up by the president.
No, we should not end the
It was brought
filibuster.
up by some of your Democratic
Yeah, I think we
colleagues in the Congress.
I think the
So my
filibuster is
question to
kind
you
of
is
funny.
you have refused in the
Like, it
past
was
to talk
made
about
for a
it.
reason.
Are
It was
you
made
willing to
for
say
that
to the
was a
American
good
people
question. Slow
tonight
down the system.
whether or not you will
Beautiful.
support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak.
Oh, should
You
he dodge?
go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how
you gonna
strongly
pack
you
the
feel. Vote now.
gonna pack the
Make
court?
sure you.
Oh,
in
did I
fact,
show you guys
let
the
people
picture
know
of my
here's your
ballot?
senators.
Because I went and did
I'm
early
not
voting
gonna answer
today.
the question
Why would
because
you answer that
because
question?
the
You wanna
question
put a lot
is
of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justices
What?
radical
question
left.
is-
would you
Who
shut
is
up,
on,
man?
listen,
You
who's
didn't
on
see
your
it?
list, Joe?
No, I
This
didn't.
Who's
is
on your
so
list?
Correct. Gentlemen,
I voted Democrat.
This is
I
so
wrote in Jimmy
unprecedented.
Carter.
Pack the to court.
We have,
I'm
no,
not
no.
going to give a list.
We have ended this segment. We're
Yeah,
gonna
I have
move
the
on to
receipts. You
second
go to
segment.
Trigger
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it? Keep yapping, man.
The people understand, Joe.
Vote blue no
Short of
matter
7
who,
years,
right?
you've done nothing.
Right?
They understand.
Fucking
The
unironically.
second subject
Doesn't is it?
COVID-19.
Hey, Jimmy Carter
is an
counts
awfully
as no matter
serious
who.
subject,
Why
so
didn't Jake Sully, man?
let's try to be
I don't even know who
serious
that
about
is.
it. We have
No one
had
knows who
more
Jake
than
Sully is.
7 million cases of coronavirus.
Wait, wasn't
in
it the guy who
United
landed the
States, and
plane
more than
in the water?
200,000
Nope.
people have died.
I will not tell
Even
you who Jake Sully
after
is.
we produce a vaccine, experts say that it could be months or even years before we come back to anything approaching normal.
Yeah, I'll tell
My
you who Jake
question
Sully is.
for
He's
both
the main
of
character
you
from
is,
Avatar.
based on what you have said
Oh shit! Yeah, you're
and
right.
done so far,
But no one
and what
knows
you
that,
have said
because,
you
like,
would
the
do
Yeah, no,
Avatar
you're
movie
right.
in
I can't believe
2021.
like no,
Why
I
should
did
the
know that,
American
but
people trust you
But
more
for whatever
than
reason, though they
your
were so
opponent
popular, the Avatar movies
to
have just
deal
not
with
stuck
this
in like the
public
minds
health
of the
crisis
American
going
people.
because
forward?
they're not
In
very
this
relevant,
case,
and like they
the
they were
question
never
goes to
relevant. It
you
was never
first,
relevant.
sir.
This
2
is one of
minutes
the most
uninterrupted.
successful film franchises or
luck.
films of all time.
Yeah, I know, but like then it
200,000
just
dead.
became irrelevant.
As you said, over
That's true.
7 million infected in the United States. We, in fact, have 5%, 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths. 40,000 people a day are contracting COVID. In addition to that, about between 750 and 1,000 people a day dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is because you are who you are. That's why it is. The president has no plan. He hasn't laid out anything. He knew all the way back in February how serious this crisis was. He knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American people. You don't panic. He panicked. In addition to that, what did he do? He went in and we were insisting that the Chinese, the people we had on the ground in China should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was. He did not even ask Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he do then? He then did nothing. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan. I laid out
Sir,
back
it's
in
just 2
March
minutes.
exactly what we should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing
God, I
all
hate
the
season 5 of
protective gear possible.
2016.
We should be providing the money the House
When are we
has
going to move on to
passed in
2017?
order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep
After
their
they
businesses
unkill the
open.
gorilla.
Open schools, it costs a lot of money. You should get out of your
Everything
bunker and get
down
out of the sand
to
trap
Rob
and get
Ford
in the golf course and go in the Oval Office and bring together the Democrats and Republicans and fund what needs to be done now to save lives.
So if we would have listened to
You
you,
have 2 minutes, sir.
if we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000. And one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened. They
Yep.
stopped it from
I do
going
like how
there,
he's
but it was
bashing China.
China's fault.
Like
And
that's
by
the
way,
one
when
thing
you
I
talk
will
about
give Trump.
numbers, you don't know
I
how
like
many
how he
people
goes hard
died in
on China because
You don't know how many people died
a
in
lot of
Russia. You
Democrats
don't know
I
how
feel
many
like aren't
people
hard
died in
enough on
India.
China.
They don't exactly
I'm not like
give
a
you
hawk
straight
or
count, just so
anything,
you
but
understand. But if you
China
look at
is an
what we've
existential
done,
threat.
I closed it, and you said he's xenophobic. He's a racist, and he's xenophobic because you didn't think I should have closed our country. Wait a minute.
It's his 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many
I feel
of
like
your
he didn't
Democrat
actually say
governors
that.
said President Trump did a
But
phenomenal
the
job.
thing is,
We
like,
worked
that's
with
the only
government.
correct decision he did
Don't take a
during
look.
COVID. Like,
The
he
governor
fucked
said
up
I did
everything
a
else.
phenomenal job.
Oh, he
Most
fucked the
of them
entire
said
thing
that.
up.
In
That's
fact,
the thing is, like,
would
he
not
only
be necessarily on my side
closed China
said
early
that.
to like seem like a
President
hawk
Trump did
on
a
China. You know
phenomenal
what I mean?
job. We
He
did.
was-
We
I mean,
got
not
the
that there's
gowns,
anything
we got
wrong
the
with being a hawk.
masks, we
I think
made the
there isn't.
ventilators. You wouldn't have
I'm not
made the
saying there isn't,
ventilators,
like,
and now we're
it was-
weeks
it was
away
for
from a
purely cynical
vaccine.
reasons he did
We're
that.
doing therapeutics already. Fewer people are
Like,
dying
the
when they
reason
get
why
sick.
we were fucked so
Far
bad is
fewer
because
people are
shut
dying.
down Europe
We've done
too
a
big.
great job.
On
The
top of
only
that,
thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news.
state
No
governors,
matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press. They give me
Arizona,
bad press because
like,
that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've gotten used to it. But I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job
Well, you didn't do
done.
very well in swine
I
flu.
know.
H1N1, you were a disaster. Your own chief of staff said you were a disaster.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was no economic recession.
Sir, you made a
There
was no recession.
You made a point. Let him answer.
And there was we didn't shut down the economy. This is his economy he shut down. The reason he shut down is because, look, you folks at home, how many of you got up this morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID? How many of you were in a situation where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse holding a phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye.
You would have lost far more people.
He died of
And
by the way, his own CDC director says we could lose as many as another 200,000 people between now and the end of the year. And he said, if we just wear a mask, we can save half those numbers. Just a mask. And by the way, in terms of the whole notion of a vaccine, for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all. Nor do you.
What's the matter here?
What we trust is a scientist.
You don't trust Dr.
Johnson,
Pfizer?
I think it's better now.
Gentlemen, let me move on.
Biden was saying like how many people
questions about the future, because you both have touched on one of
died.
two of the questions I'm going to ask.
My aunt had a stroke over the summer.
Focusing on the future first, President Trump, you
Yeah.
have repeatedly
And like I couldn't see her.
contradicted or been at odds with some of your government's own top scientists. The week before last, the head of the Centers for Disease Control,
Was it a
Dr.
COVID
said
stroke?
It would be summer.
No, it's just a
before
stroke.
the
She didn't have
vaccine
COVID. I couldn't get
become generally available.
Because
yeah,
the
you
public.
keep cutting
He said
out.
that he was confused
All right, hold
and
on.
mistaken. Those were your two words.
Yeah.
But Dr. Slaoui, the head of your Operation Warp Speed, has said exactly the same thing. Are they both
Is this
wrong?
better?
Well, I've spoken to the companies,
Yeah.
and we can have it a lot
Uh,
simpler. It's a very political thing because people
Yeah.
like this would
All right.
rather make it political than save lives. It is a very political thing. I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have great Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and others. They can go faster than that by a lot. Become very political because the left, or I don't know if I call
So
them
you're
left, I don't know
suggesting
what I
that
call
the
them.
head of your Operation Warp Speed, Dr. Slaoui?
I disagree with him. Yeah, no, I disagree with both of them. And he didn't say that. He said it could be there, but it could also be much sooner. I had him in my office 2 days ago.
He talked about the summer, sir, before it's generally available. Just like
He said
Dr.
it's a
Redfield.
possibility that we'll have the answer before November 1st. It could also
I'm
be
talking about when
after
it's
that.
generally available. not when
Well,
it
we're
will
going to
be.
deliver it right away. We have the military all set up logistically. They're all set up. We have our military that delivers soldiers, and they can do 200,000 a day. They're going to be
This is
delivering
the
the
same man
It's
who
all
told
set
you
up.
by Easter this would be gone away.
Did
By
he
the
actually-
warm
yeah,
weather,
no,
it'd
he
be
did say
gone.
that, didn't he?
Miraculous, like a miracle. And
Yeah,
by
he
the
did
way,
say
maybe
that.
you could inject some bleach
All
in
right,
your arm.
hey,
That
how
would
many
take care
coming
of it.
through now?
This is the
That
same.
was
better.
said sarcastic.
All
I
right.
always, you know that.
I-
That was said
And
sarcastic.
so here's the deal. This man
Here's
is
the
talking
deal.
about a vaccine. Every
40 chess
serious,
guys.
every serious company is
It's
talking about
87
maybe having a vaccine done by the end of the year, but the distribution of that vaccine will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle of next year to get it out, if we get the vaccine. And pray God we will. Pray God we will.
Mr. Vice President, I want to pick up, though.
You'll have
on
the
that.
vaccine
I
sooner
want to
than
pick
that.
up on this question, though. You say the public can trust the scientists, but they can't trust President Trump. In fact, you said that again tonight. Your running mate, Senator Harris, goes further, saying the public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed. Given the fact that polls already show that people are concerned about the vaccine and are reluctant to take it, are
Yeah, no,
you
Chris
and your
Wallace
running
and
mate,
Brett
Senator
Baer
Harris,
are like
contributing
the
to that
only
fear?
No
actual
more than the question you just asked.
journalists
You
Fox
pointed
has.
out. He puts pressure and disagrees with
At least
his
Fox
own
News.
scientists.
Fox
But you're
Business
saying
has a
you
couple
can't-
of
Senator
good ones.
Harris is saying you can't trust the scientists.
No, you can't trust the scientists. She didn't say that. You can't trust
She
the
said the public health
Did say
experts,
that.
quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed.
Well, that's what he's going to try to do. But there's millions of scientists, there's thousands of scientists out there, like here at this great hospital, that don't work for him. Their job doesn't depend on him. That's not, they're the people. And by
I
the way,
spoke to the
and Fauci,
scientists that are in charge.
by the way,
they will have
and
the vaccine very soon.
Let him finish.
do you believe for a moment what he's telling you in light of all the lies he's told you about the whole issue relating to COVID? He still hasn't even acknowledged that he knew this was happening, knew how dangerous it was going to be back in February, and he didn't even tell you. He's on record as saying it. He panicked or he just looked at the stock market, one of the two, because guess what? A lot of people died. and a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
So,
Mr. President?
did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe. 47 years you've done nothing.
Let's have this debate.
Dude, Trump is such a
Let me just tell
bully.
you something, Joe. If you would have had the charge,
Dude, they're like
of what
kind
I was
okay.
put through, I had
They're
to
like
close
kinder.
the
They seem like
greatest
they're
economy in
like
the
first
history of our
graders,
country. And by the
kindergartners
way,
right
now it's being built again.
You see,
and it's
We're going to
going
get
up
to the
fast.
economy in the next segment, sir.
Okay.
It's going up fast.
Okay.
Look forward to
going up
when it
fast.
comes to how the virus
line's
has been
going up,
handled
guys.
so far, the two of you have taken very different approaches, and this is going to affect how the virus is handled going forward by whichever of you ends up becoming the next president. I want to quickly go through several of those. Reopenings. Vice President Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I know what the plan is.
Yeah,
You've
Trump
got to
does just pretty
provide
much just
these businesses
wings
the
it.
ability to
He doesn't
the
have a
money
plan.
to be able to reopen with the
It's like a dog
PPE,
chasing
as
cars.
well as with the
He doesn't know what he's
sanitation
going to
they
do when
need.
he catches
You have
it.
to
Tell
provide
that
them
to Nancy
plastic.
Pelosi.
Well, he's just shush for a minute.
Tell it to
You
Nancy
know,
Pelosi. And Schumer,
by the
Brian
way,
Chuck.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't even meet with them. The Republicans won't meet with him in the Senate. And he sits on his golf course. And well, I mean, literally, think about it.
You probably play
think
more than
about
I do, Joe.
What about this question of reopenings and the fact?
Well, he wants to shut down this country.
Oh.
And I want to keep it open. And we did a great thing by shutting it down. Wait a minute, Joe. Let me shut you down for a second, Joe. Just for
Oh
1
my
second.
God.
He wants to shut down the country. We just went through it. We had to because we didn't know anything about the disease. Now we found that elderly people with heart problems and diabetes and different problems are very, very vulnerable. We learned a lot. Young children aren't. Even younger people aren't. We've learned a lot. But he wants to shut it down. More people will be hurt by continuing. If you look at Pennsylvania, if you look at certain states that have been shut down, they have Democrat governors all. One of the reasons they're shut down is because they want to keep it shut down until after the election on November 3rd.
I want to move on to another
because
subject.
it's a
I want to move
political
on to another
I've got to
subject.
respond.
But those states are not doing well that are shut down
Which is
right
got
now.
to respond to that.
President
shut
Trump,
down the
you
whole
have
country.
begun to increasingly question the effectiveness of masks as a disease preventer. And in fact, recently you have cited the
Be
issue
fair, we
of
don't actually
waiters
know how
touching their
effective it is.
masks
I mean,
and touching
I
plates.
wear masks.
Are you questioning?
But we
I
still
think
don't know like
efficacy of
how.
You have to
masks?
understand, if you look, I mean, I have a mask right here. I put a mask on, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to, but I
Just
wear
like your
masks
rally.
when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. I will say that.
Okay, to be fair, I am surprised that
The way to open
Biden
businesses
didn't just like
is
show
give
up
them
wearing
the
a mask.
wherewithal to be able to open.
I was
We
actually
provide
expecting
money,
that he
But I
would.
was asking you, sir, about masks.
Well, masks make a big difference. His own head of the CDC said if we just wore masks between now, everybody wore masks and social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
And they've also
It
said the
matters.
opposite. They've also
And
said
no serious person said the opposite.
They've also said, well, look
serious.
at Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci said the
He
opposite.
did not
I
say
want to
the
ask you, we got a
said
little
very
bit more than a
strongly,
minute left in this
masks
segment.
are not good. Then he changed his mind. He said masks good.
I
I'm
wanna
okay
ask-
with masks.
I
I'm
want to
not
ask you
fighting
both about
masks.
one last subject because your different approaches has even affected the way that you have campaigned. President Trump, you're holding large rallies with crowds packed together, thousands of people. Outside, yes, sir, agreed. Vice President Biden, you are holding much smaller events with
Because nobody will show up.
people with
Well, it's true. Nobody shows up to his rallies.
All right. In any case, why you holding the big rallies? Why you not? You goes first, sir.
Because people want to hear what I have to say. I mean,
But are you
I've
not
done a
worried
great
about it
job
spreading
as a
disease?
president, and I'll have 35,000 people show up at airports. We use airports.
Are you
for
not worried
hangars, and
about
we
the
have a
disease
lot of
issues,
people.
sir?
Well, so far we have had no problem whatsoever. It's outside. That's a big difference, according to the experts. And we do them outside. We have tremendous crowds, as you see. I mean, and literally on 24 hours notice. And Joe does the circles and has 3 people someplace.
Okay.
By the way, did you see
sir.
one of the last big rallies he had? And a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no, stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people. That's what he said. I can't. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no negative effect.
No negative effect.
We've had no negative effect. And we've had 35, 40,000 people at these rallies.
Just quickly finish up because I want to move on to our next.
Yes, I would. He's been totally irresponsible the way in which he has handled the social distancing and people wearing masks, basically encouraging them not to.
All right.
Ben, he's a fool on this.
If you could get the crowds, you would have done the same thing. But you can't. Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on
Nobody
to the
cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the economy?
Yes.
The economy is, I think it's fair to say, recovering faster than expected from the shutdown.
Much faster.
In the second quarter, the unemployment rate fell to 8.4% last month. The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had expected. President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped recovery. Vice President Biden, you say it's more of a K-shape. What difference does that mean to the American people in terms of the economy? President Trump, in this segment, you go first.
Hey there,
So
Fordor.
we built the greatest economy in history. We closed it down because of the China plague. When the plague came in, we closed it down, which was very hard psychologically to do. He didn't think we should close it down, and he was wrong. And again, 2 million people would be dead now instead of still 204,000 people is too much. One person is too much. Should have never happened from
I love
China.
how we just added
But what
that.
happened is we closed it down,
But
and now
literally,
we're
what the fuck was
reopening,
it
and we're
supposed to mean?
doing
That meant
record
nothing.
business. We had 10.4 million people in a 4-month period that we've put back into the workforce. That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he
Alkazei,
wants to close
what would you
down
think
the-
of
he
a
will shut it
Dave
down
Rubin
again. He will
moderation
destroy
debate?
this country. You know, a lot of people between drugs and alcohol,
Really high
Well, you know,
depression.
both of you
when
are putting
start
out some
shutting it
high-level
down, you take a
ideas
look
here.
at what's
I
happening
don't
in
think
some
I
of
can
your
have the energy to
Democrat-run
moderate.
states
You know,
where
my
they have
brain's
these
just on
tough
overload.
shutdowns.
Too many
And I'm
high-level
telling you,
ideas
it's
coming out of both
because
of you.
they don't want to open it. One of them came out last
What about a
week. You saw
Rogan
that.
debate?
Oh, we're going to
I would
open up
love
on
that.
November 9th.
Have you tried
Why November
DMT?
9th? Because it's after the
Yeah,
election.
no,
well,
that would be a
hurting
great
us
question.
Well, Joe,
by keeping it closed.
I can't
They're
do Trump,
hurting
but
people.
fuck,
People know
I want
what
to do a
to
Trump
do.
impression
They
so
can
bad about
social
saying how he loves
distance, they can
DMT.
wash their hands, they
DMT
can
is the
wear
greatest.
masks. They can do whatever they want, but they got to open these states up. When you look at North Carolina, when you look, and these governors are under siege, Pennsylvania, Michigan, a couple of others.
Siege. No, I'm
You got to
kidding.
open
Don't
these
quote that.
states up. It's not fair. You're talking about almost it's like being in prison. And you look at what's
Yes,
going on
Dave
with
Rubin
divorce.
is too passive
Look
for
at
her.
what's going on with alcoholism and drugs. It's a very, very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close
Biden
down
is just
the
fucking
country
suffering.
and destroy our country. Our
Just
country
look
is
at
coming
him.
back incredibly well, setting records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say, let's shut it down.
All right. Your 2 minutes, sir. We're now moved to you. As I said, posing the question, the president says it's a V-shaped recovery. You say it's a K-shaped recovery. What's the difference?
The difference is millionaires and billionaires like him in the middle of the COVID crisis have done very well. Billionaires have made another $300 billion because of his profligate tax proposal, and he only focused on the market.
You
But
missed,
folks at home,
you missed
you
about
folks living in
30
Scranton and
minutes.
Claymont and all the small
Not that much.
towns
It's
and
just
working
been,
class towns in America. How well are you doing?
but like
This
pretty
guy
much
paid
well,
every
total of
debate,
$750
it's
in
really
taxes.
more
Boomer
more
blood sports.
substance.
Boomer blood sports.
2 minutes.
Yeah,
so
last
please let him
night,
have it.
it's like
Give my
last
time
night
back.
we were talking
The
about
fact
how
is that he is, in
the
fact,
debates,
worked on
or not even
this
the
in a
debate,
way
just
that he's
American
gonna be the
politics
first
right now. It's just like
president of the
Halo,
United
red versus blue.
to leave office having fewer jobs
Just blue team, red team.
in his
That's
administration
literally it.
than when he became president. Fewer jobs than when he became president. First one in American history. Secondly, the people who have lost their jobs are those people who have been on the front lines, those people who have been saving our lives, those people who have been out there dying, people who've been putting themselves in the way to make sure that we could all try to make it. And the idea that he is insisting that we go forward and open when you have almost half the states in America with a significant increase in COVID deaths and COVID cases in the United States of America. and he wants to open it up more. Why does he want to open it up? Why doesn't he take care of the American? You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis. And he has no intention of doing anything about making it better for you all at home in terms of your health and your safety. Schools, why aren't schools open? Because it costs a lot of money to open them safely. You know
what we need to
they
do?
were going to give his
As long as
administration
we
were
don't,
gonna give the
schools aren't
teachers and school
open,
students
we should
masks.
like,
And then
they should like
decided,
suspend
no,
the
couldn't do
like
that because
property
it's not a
taxes.
national emergency. Not a national emergency.
They
They've
should
done
suspend
nothing to
property
help
taxes.
Small businesses, nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6
Well,
is
property
now
taxes,
gone.
that's just like
We ought to
a
get
tax
on the
basically.
job and take care of the needs
They
of
should
the
suspend
American people
taxes.
so we
They should
can't
tax
open sales.
taxation.
Your time is up, sir. We're going to get to.
I
We're
have
going
to respond to that.
Well, you both had 2 minutes, sir.
Excuse me, he made a statement.
You said
No, people want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New York. It's so sad what's happening in New York. It's almost like
I'm
a ghost
sorry,
town.
guys. I actually have to go
Electric
take care of
never
some
recover
stuff.
what
This
they've
is
done in
melting
New
my
York.
brain. Have a good night, though, okay?
Are you coming back?
They want to
I
get
might.
back to
I
it.
might.
They'll
Want
be
to be
careful,
safe.
but they want their schools open.
Okay.
want
I'm
to
the
be
one that
safe.
brought back football. By the way, I brought back Big Ten football. It was me, and I'm very happy to do it. And
All right,
people of Ohio are very proud of me. And you know
We're
how
going
I
to get
found
back.
out? When he took a
Gentlemen,
phony
we're going to
ad.
get to your economic plans going forward in a moment. But first, Mr. President, as you well know, there's a new report that in 2016, the year you were elected president, and 2017, your first year as president, that you paid $750 a year in federal income tax each of those years. I know that you pay
Yeah,
a lot
Alkazei,
of
what is
other
your take on
taxes, but I'm
this?
asking you the specific question. Is it true that you paid $750 in federal income taxes each of those 2 years?
I paid millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars of income tax. And let me just tell you, there was a story in one of the papers.
Show us your tax
I paid
returns.
$38 million 1 year. I paid $27 million.
Show us your tax
1 year.
returns.
I went, you'll see it as soon as
Sorry,
it's finished.
somebody
You
came
know,
into my room.
Go to the Board of Elections.
Is it
There's a
your boyfriend?
118-page or so report.
No, it was a girl.
This is everything I have.
Oh,
Every bank
is it
I
your
have,
girlfriend?
I'm totally under
wish.
leveraged because the assets are extremely good, and we have a very I built a
Sir,
great
I'm asking
company.
you a specific question, which
But
is.
let me tell you.
I understand.
I do
all
think
that.
Chris
I
Wallace is doing an
understand
okay
all
job.
that. No, Mr. President.
He's doing the best he can do.
Yeah.
Will you
I
tell
mean,
us how
definitely a
much
lot
you paid in
firmer
federal
than
income
Rachel
taxes
Maddow.
in
Because
2016
Rachel Maddow
and
just goes
2017?
like spurgs out.
dollars.
You paid millions of dollars.
Millions of dollars.
So
yes.
not 750.
Millions of dollars.
Yeah,
And you'll get to
Chris Wallace is just trying to
you'll
laugh
get
to
to-
it.
But let me just tell you, Chris, let me just tell you something, that it was the tax laws. I don't want to pay tax. Before I came here, I was a private developer. I was a private business people. Like every
I was
other
a private
person,
business
unless
people.
They're stupid. They go through the laws, and that's what it is. He passed a tax bill that gave us all these privileges for depreciation and for tax credits. We build a building and we get tax credits, like the hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. You get a massive, which, by the way, was given to me by the Obama administration, if you can believe that. Now, the man got fired right after that happened. But
Vice President Biden, you want to respond?
Yeah, I do want to respond. Look, the tax code that made him, that put him in a position that he pays less tax than a school teacher makes on the money a school teacher makes is because of him he says he's smart because he can take advantage of the tax code. And he does take advantage of the tax code. That's why I'm going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts. And I'm going to eliminate those tax cuts and make sure that we invest in the people who, in fact, need the help. People out there
Give everyone
need
tax
help.
cuts.
But why didn't you do it over 20?
Abolish personal income tax, replace it with LBG. By
Yeah,
the way, the other guy.
national sales tax, because
You were a senator.
that way, like,
You were
the
a
thing
senator.
is with the income tax, there's so
Hey,
many
let me just
ways
say,
to like
Joe,
go
I've
through
done more
loopholes.
in
Yeah.
There's so many rooms for
7 months.
loopholes.
I've
If
done
you do
more
like a
than you've done
national
in
sales tax
47
instead,
years,
get
Joe.
rid of the income
We've done
tax,
things that you never
then
even thought of doing.
systemically
Fixing the
everyone has to
broken
pay the
military
tax.
that
No
you gave me.
loopholes.
Taking
You
care
can't
of
get out of
that.
paying sales
President,
tax.
we're talking about
The problem with
economy.
that is that sales tax is
your
how it
plan
will affect poor
forward.
people when they buy
Because
stuff.
That is true. No, but
President, your
yeah,
economic
that is
plan.
true.
I'd rather have a value-added tax or like just a
President
specific tax
focuses
on
a lot
luxury
on big
goods.
government, big taxes, big spending. I want to
Yeah,
focus
Fordor,
first
I-
on
With the land value tax and the
I
carbon.
agree with
more
Fordor
than
here.
$4 trillion
Flat tax
over a
is not
decade in
viable.
new taxes on individuals making more than $400,000 a year and on corporations. President Trump says that kind of an increase in taxes is going to hurt the economy as it's just coming out of a recession?
Well, just take a look at what is the analysis done by Wall Street firms. Points out that my economic plan would create 7 million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one. And number two, it would create an additional $1 trillion in economic growth because it would be about buying American. That we're going to make this federal government spend $600 billion a year on everything from ships to steel to buildings and the like.
Ships are fun.
And under my proposal, we're going to make sure
Warships.
that every penny of that has to be made by.
They're cool, but we have too many.
Respectfully, sir, I'm talking about taxes, not spending.
By the way, I'm going to eliminate a significant number of the tax. I'm going to make the corporate tax 28%. It shouldn't be 21%. You have 91 companies, in the Fortune 500 who don't pay a single penny in tax, making billions of dollars.
Why didn't you do it before when you were vice president with Obama?
Because you, in fact, passed that. That was your tax proposal.
I got it done. And you know what happened?
You got it done.
Our economy boomed like it's never boomed.
The economy is
Mr. President, let me pick up on
Economic
that.
growth slowed down under Trump. It was like barely growing. It was like 1.8. It was like a 1.8% growth in GDP.
American people.
If I remember correctly, like the quarter before coronavirus.
To be fair to Trump, I mean,
turns out that in Obama's
the economy has been doing pretty good. Well, until COVID, at least. Yeah, Obama got it started off, but I do think that Trump kind of heightened it a bit.
They had the slowest
Like,
recovery.
That's the one thing I'll give him. However, it would have expanded even more if we actually still had free trade.
Recovery. Also, they took over something that was down here. Well,
if we would have joined TPP, that would have been nice.
The slowest economic recovery.
I was telling you the other day,
let me tell you about the stock market.
Tim Pool has no idea what TPP is.
It also means
what did he say?
He said TPP. He's like, I'm glad that Obama got it, or I'm glad that Trump made sure that you get TPP. Did you look, or have you guys looked at that? That would have sold us out to China.
Trump said that on the debate stage, and Rand Paul called him out.
I know. It's like that makes no sense. Because the whole thing is TPP was specifically created as an economic plan to contain China. No, China wasn't in TPP.
We handed him a booming economy. He blew it.
It wasn't booming. It wasn't booming. It was the weakest recovery since 1929.
Is it fair to say he blew it when fact when there was record low unemployment before COVID?
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID, manufacturing went in the hole. Manufacturing went in a hole.
Excuse me, Chris. Wait.
Number two.
Chris.
Number three.
They said it would take. No, you were number two.
No.
Chris, they said it would take a miracle to bring back manufacturing. I brought back 700,000 jobs. They brought back nothing. They gave up on manufacturing. Part of my standard fare.
I'm the guy that brought back the automobile industry.
All right, let him.
We brought back. I was asked to bring back Chrysler and General Motors. We brought them back right here in the state of Ohio and Michigan. He blew it. They're gone. He blew it. And in fact, they're going.
Ohio had the best year it's ever had last year. Michigan had the best year they've ever had.
That is not
Many
true.
car companies came in from Germany, from Japan, went to Michigan, went to Ohio.
They're not having
and they didn't come in with you.
Mr. Vice President, go ahead.
And so you take a look at what he's actually done. He's done very little. His trade deals are the same way. He talks about these great trade deals. You know, he talks about the art of the deal. China's perfected the art of the steal. We have a higher deficit with China now than we did before. We have the highest deficit.
I actually kind of like that, the art of the steal.
Your lunch. All right, China ate your lunch, Joe, and no wonder your son goes in and he takes out billions of dollars. Takes out billions of dollars to manage.
Just drop my mic again.
Also, while we're at it, why is it, just out of curiosity,
did I fuck it up?
The mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million. What did he do to deserve it? What did he do with Burisma to deserve $180?
Now he's attacking his family. I mean, Hunter Biden is a scumbag, but like, still, this is not a place to attack somebody's family.
Totally discredited. Totally discredited. And by the way,
well, wait, he didn't get $3.5 million, Joe?
Mr. Vice,
he got $3.5 million.
That is not true.
Oh, really?
Mr. President, it's an open discussion, please.
It's a fact.
Well, you have raised an issue. Let the Vice President answer.
Discredited.
Did Burisma pay him $183,000 a month with no experience in energy?
Mr.
Look,
President.
my son did nothing wrong at Burisma.
I think he did.
Mr.
The only
President,
guy that
let
did
him
something-
answer.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been totally, thoroughly discredited.
By who?
And
The media.
By everybody. Well, by the media, by our
because they refuse to
allies,
talk
by the
about it
World
because they're
Bank,
embarrassed.
by everyone has discredited. Matter of fact, even the people who testified under oath.
So let me ask you this, Joe.
No, go ahead, Mr. I'm listening to you.
People under.
You got $3.5 million from Moscow.
Alkazei.
He testified under oath in his
there.
administration, said, I did
Why
my
was I
job
muted?
and
What
I
the fuck?
did very well.
Yeah, you were muted. I said, hold on, I need to go.
Well, I'll give you the list.
I need to go
of
get some
the
beer.
people who
No,
testified.
go ahead, sir.
Sure,
I wish I had beer.
Did you already drink your beer?
People don't
Well,
No,
here's-
the beer cans I thought I had in my room were empty.
You get the
Now I'm
final word,
just sitting
Mr.
here
It's hard to get
suffering.
anywhere in with this clown. Excuse me. This.
Hey, let me
this
just
person.
say, Joe,
No. I'm Mr. President.
$3.5
I'm Mr.
million.
This
President.
clown.
That is simply.
why did
not
he
true.
deserve $3.5 million
It
from
did-
Moscow?
Look, here's the deal. We want to talk about
Well,
families.
take a drink. So here's the deal.
I don't want to do that. I mean, his family we could talk about all night. His family's
My
already.
family,
No, let him go.
my family
already
lost
wrote
a fortune by
That's
coming
right.
down and helping
Go
us
ahead.
with
Go ahead,
government.
sir.
And that's
Every-
such a.
they're right
That's
here.
it, Mr.
That's such
Every
a great.
single one of them lost.
This
a
is not
fortune
about
by
my
coming and
family or
helping
his
us with
family. It's
government.
about your family,
They
the
didn't
American
pay
people.
$3.5 million
He doesn't.
nothing.
That's not true. It doesn't want to talk about what you need. You, the American people. It's about you. That's what we're talking about.
you
here.
should
All right,
Not
that's the end of the
Shouldn't
segment.
take the money.
We're moving on.
He didn't take them.
Well,
Vice
it's a very-
President,
but Chris,
no,
can I be honest? It's a very important
Try to be
question.
honest.
No,
He stood up.
No,
he stood up,
the answer to
and
the
he
question is
threatened
no.
Ukraine.
No, sir.
With $1 billion,
Sir,
if you
That
get rid of
is
the
you know what, you're-
absolutely not
Stop.
true.
tape
You're-
doing it.
You're going to
Not
have
tape.
True.
Gentlemen,
Is-
I hate to raise
Chris,
my voice,
he's
but
on
it seems
tape.
to be, why should I be different than the two of you? So here's the
That's a
deal.
good point.
We have 6 segments. We have ended that segment. We're going to go to the next segment. In that segment, you each are going to have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead. But I think that the country would be better served if we allowed both people to speak with fewer interruptions. I'm appealing to you, sir, to do that.
Well, and him too.
Well, frankly, you've been doing more interrupting
Well, that's
than
all
he
right,
has.
but he does plenty.
Well, less than, sir, less
there's
than,
plenty.
no, less than you have. Let's please continue on. The issue of race. Vice President Biden, you say that President Trump's response to the violence in Charlottesville 3 years ago, when he talked about very fine people on both sides, was what directly led you to launch this run for president.
Oh, yeah, sure.
President Trump, you have often said that you believe you have done more for Black Americans than any president, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. My question for the two of you is, why should voters trust you rather than your opponent to deal with the race issues facing this country over the next 4 years? Vice President Biden, you go first.
It's about equity and equality. It's about decency. It's about the Constitution. And we have never walked away from trying to require equity for everyone, equality for the whole of America. But we've never accomplished it. But we've never walked away from it like he has done. It is true. The reason I got in the race is when those people, close your eyes, remember what those people look like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, just spewing anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed. And they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very fine people on both sides. No president has ever said anything like that. Now, second point I'd make to you is that when Floyd was killed, when Mr. Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful protest in front of the White House. What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the military use tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church and hold up a Bible. And then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus. And if he doesn't do something quickly, by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans. This man is a savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing. Look, the fact is that you have to look at what he talks about. You have to look at what he did. And what he did has been disastrous for the African-American community.
So,
President Trump, you have 2 minutes. Why should Americans trust you over your opponent to deal with racism?
he did a crime bill, 1994, where you call them super predators, African Americans, super predators, and they've never forgotten it. They've never forgotten it, Joe.
No, sir, it's his 2 minutes.
So you did that, and they call you a super predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that you have treated the African American population community, you have treated the black community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the 1990, and that's why if you look at the polls, I'm doing better than any Republican has done in a long time, because they saw what you did. You call them super predators, and you've called them worse than that. Because you look back at your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot worse than that. As far as the church is concerned, and as far as the generals are concerned, we just got the support of 250 military leaders and generals, total support. Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio, I have Portland. The sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement, because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because you know what? If they called us in Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats.
So I've returned and I can't find my beer either.
Look at any place you want to look.
You just missed Chris Wallace fucking yell at Trump.
They put up their hands and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe in law and order, but you don't. The top 10 cities and just about the top 40 cities are run by Democrats and in many cases radical left, and they've got you wrapped around their finger,
Radical,
Joe,
like,
to a point where you don't want to say anything.
Thing is, that is
about
always
law
really
and order.
cringe. Like,
and I'll
like I
tell
said,
you what,
I am not
the people
a
of this
I'm not a
country
man of the
want
left,
and demand,
but I know what
law and order,
leftism
and you're afraid
is.
to even say it.
All right.
The
I want to return
radical
to the question
left. It's
of
like
race.
he's talking as if
social liberals leftists.
Yeah, that's cringe. That's like boomer
case
con nonsense.
Decided not to charge any of the police with homicide. You said it raises the question, quote, whether justice could be equally applied in America. Do you believe that there is a separate but unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?
Yes, there is. There's systemic injustice in this country, in education and work and in law enforcement and the way in which it's enforced. But look, the vast majority of police officers are
Trump's
good,
being kind of a
decent,
mad
honorable
lad
men
tonight,
and women.
and it's hilarious.
They risk their lives every day.
I'm
to
not
take care of
enjoying it.
But there are
I
some
think it's
bad
funny.
apples, and
Like,
when
I don't
they
like
occur,
Trump,
when they
but,
find
like,
them, they
man,
have to be sorted out. They
it's
have to be held
entertaining.
accountable. They have to be held accountable.
I don't find
And
it
what we do as
entertaining
President of the United
anymore.
States is called
Why? Because you don't have your beer?
together an entire group
Yeah.
of well, everything from the civil rights groups to the police officers, the police chiefs, and we're going to work this out. We're going to work this out so we change the way in which we have more transparency in when these things happen. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to George Floyd. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to Breonna Taylor. Most don't like it, but we have to have a system where people are held accountable. And by the way, violence in response is never appropriate. Never appropriate. Peaceful protest is. Violence is never appropriate.
All right.
What is peaceful protest? When they run through the middle of the town and burn down your stores and kill people all over the place?
That is
To
not
kill
peaceful
people.
protest.
No, it's not.
Wait, what did you say?
He said, "Is it peaceful
Continue to
protest when you
address
run
it.
out,
Promise
run
we're gonna
around
get to
burning
the
things
issue
down
of
and
law and
killing
order
people all
in a
over the
moment.
place?"
This month, your administration
Dude, he
directed
literally
for
cleared out the area in front of the
raising
White House so he could go to St. John's Episcopal Church to take a picture.
I know.
Theory.
Like,
Why did you decide
Come
to do
on.
that, to end racial sensitivity training? And do you believe
Okay, that was
there
actually a
is
good
systemic
decision on his
racism
part.
in this country, sir?
I ended it because it's racist. I ended it because a lot of
Yeah.
people were complaining that they were asked to do
Okay,
things
you know
that
what?
were
Yeah, I'm going to give him
absolutely
this one.
insane, that it was a radical revolution that was taking place in our military, in our schools, all over the place, and you know it, and so does everybody else. And he would know.
What is
it was
radical
totally
about racial sensitivity training?
If you were a certain person, you had no status in life. It was sort of a reversal. And if you look at the people, we were paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach very bad ideas and frankly, very sick ideas. And really, they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to allow that to happen. We have to go back to the core values of this country. They were teaching people that our country is a horrible place, it's a racist place, and they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to allow that to happen.
He is right here. I'm giving this one to Trump.
He's racist.
You just don't.
Here's the deal.
I don't see anything inherently wrong with like racial sensitivity training. I don't know.
The fact is that there is racial insensitivity. People have to be made aware of what other people feel like, what insults them, what is demeaning to them. It's important that people know they don't want to. Many people don't want to hurt other people's feelings, but it makes a big difference. It makes a gigantic difference in the way a child is able to grow up and have a sense of self-esteem. It's a little bit like how this guy and his friends look down on so many people. They look down their nose on people like Irish Catholics like me and grew up in Scranton. They look down on people who don't have money. They look down on people who are of a different faith. They look down on people who are a different color. In fact, we're all Americans. The only way we're going to bring this country together is bring everybody together. There's nothing we cannot do if we do it together. We can take this on and we can defeat racism in America.
President Trump, sir.
During the Obama-Biden administration, there was tremendous division. There was hatred. You look at Ferguson, you look at you go to many places.
No worse than right now.
Look what happened in Oakland.
It is worse.
Look what happened. Frankly, it was more
protest under Trump right now. George Floyd was killed.
No, I'm talking about right now. It's no.
Democrats
it is
run
worse.
These cities don't want to talk like you about law and order.
Violent
you
crime,
still haven't mentioned. Are you in favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You follow.
Are you in favor of law and order? Go ahead.
You asked a question. Let him finish.
Law and order. Law and order with justice, where people get treated fairly. Okay. And the fact of the matter is, violent crime went down 17%, 15% in our administration.
All right.
It's gone up on his watch.
Went down much more in ours.
All right, we're not. Mr. President, you're going to. Mr. President,
every record in the book.
Mr. President, you're going to be very happy because we're now going to talk about law and order.
We had trouble. We're Democratic-run cities.
That's exactly my question. There has been a dramatic increase in homicides in America this summer particularly, and you often blame that on Democratic mayors and Democratic governors, but in fact there have been equivalent spikes in Republican-led cities like Tulsa and Fort Worth. So the question is this really a party issue?
I think it's a party issue. You can bring in a couple of examples, but if you look at Chicago, what's going on in Chicago, where 53 people were shot and 8 died shot. If you look at New York, where it's going up like nobody's ever seen anything, the numbers are going up 100, 150, 200% crime. It is crazy what's going on. And he doesn't want to say law and order because he can't, because he'll lose his radical left supporters. And once he does that, it's over with. But if he ever got to run this country and they ran it the way he would want to run it, we would have our suburbs would be gone. By the way, our suburbs would be gone, and you would see problems like you've never seen.
He wouldn't know a suburb unless he took a wrong turn.
Oh, I know suburbs.
He would not.
So much
Go ahead. Wait a minute.
I was raised in the suburbs. This is not 1950.
God fucking damn it! Stop appealing to the suburbs. Suburbs are cringe.
By and large, integrated.
I live in the
people
suburbs
today driving their kids.
I do too, but I fucking hate it.
Black and white and Hispanic in the same car as there have been any time in the past. What really is a threat to the suburbs and their safety is his failure to deal with COVID. They're dying in the suburbs. His failure to deal with the environment. They're being flooded. They're being burned out because his refusal to do anything. That's why the suburbs are in trouble.
I do want to talk about this issue of law and order, though. And in the joint recommendation that came from the Biden-Bernie Sanders task force, you talked about, quote, reimagining policing. Yeah. First of all, what does reimagining policing mean? And do you support?
It means.
Let me, if I might finish the question. What does reimagining policing mean? And do you support the Black Lives Matter call for for community control of policing?
Look, what I support is the police having the opportunity to deal with the problems they face. And I'm totally opposed to defunding the police officers. As a matter of fact, local police, the only one defunding it.
And Deathsinger is here. How are you doing tonight,
$400 million
Deathsinger?
cut in local law enforcement assistance.
I'm doing pretty all right. Just trying to not get an absolute headache from this nightmare.
Yeah, I know. I took like 4 Advils earlier.
Yeah, I probably won't actually get a headache. Just the kind that lingers at the back of your mind. It's more of a thought headache.
Yeah, I know exactly.
So headache, like,
and so we have to be engaged.
my brain cannot handle
That's not what
the stupidity going on.
That is not true.
He doesn't have any law support. He has no law enforcement
That's not
support.
true.
Almost
That's
nothing.
Look.
Oh, really? Who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go ahead. Think. We have time.
We don't have time to do anything.
Think about it. Name one law enforcement group that came out and supported.
Gentlemen, I think I'm going to take back the moderator's role, and I want to get to another subject, which is the issue of protests in many cities that have turned violent.
Oh boy.
In Portland, and especially, we had
Is
more
this
than
one of your
100
Catholic theocrat friends you're talking about?
No, it's not.
No.
Many of those turned into riots. Mr. Vice President, you say that people who commit crimes should be held accountable. The question I have, though, is as the Democratic nominee, and earlier tonight you said that you are the Democratic Party right now, have you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said, hey, you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you'd stop the days and months of violence?
Ooh, his answer here is going to be kind of interesting.
I am a former vice president. I've made it clear in my public statements that the violence should be prosecuted. It should be prosecuted. And anyone who commits it.
But you've never called for the people, the leader, excuse me, sir. You had never called for the leaders in Portland and in Oregon to bring in the National Guard and knock off 100 days of riots.
They can, in fact, take care of it if he just stay out of the way. Look here.
Oh, really? Oh, really?
Here's the thing.
I sent in the U.S. Marshals to get the killer of the young man in the middle of the street. They shot him. And for 3 days,
President Trump
Portland wouldn't do anything. I had to send in the U.S. Marshals. They took care of business.
Go ahead, sir.
And by the way, his own former spokesperson said, riots and chaos and violence help his cause. That's what this is all about.
I don't know who said that.
I do.
Who?
I think Kellyanne Conway.
I don't think she said that.
She said that. And so here's the,
all right.
Well, here's the point.
Go
The
ahead.
point is that's what he keeps trying to rile everything up. He doesn't want to calm things down. Instead of going in and talking to people and saying, let's get everybody together, figure out how to deal with this. What's he do? He just pours gasoline in the fire constantly, and every single solitary time.
And to end this, button up this segment, I'm going to give you a minute to answer, sir. You have repeatedly criticized.
I have to answer his statement.
No, you have repeatedly. You've been talking back
made
and
a
forth.
statement.
I'm asking you.
I would love to end it.
Sir.
I would love to end it.
If you want to switch seats.
We would very quickly.
We could do that, but
I'd send in the National Guard, it would be over. There'd be no problem.
Okay.
But they don't want to accept the National Guard.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm willing
prepared to
do
specifically
that,
do it?
Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
You want to call them? What do you want to call them? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name.
supremacists and
Who would you like me to condemn?
white supremacists and right
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something.
Holy
about it.
shit.
And this is
What?
This is a left.
Why just fucking condemn them? This is such an easy give.
is an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you got it.
Not malicious. That's what his
an idea.
FBI,
But they are-
his FBI director.
Gentlemen,
They are
said.
thugs,
you know
though.
what?
No, we're done, sir. We're moving on to the next. We're moving.
When a bat hits you over the head, that's not an idea.
Everybody in
Antifa
your
is bad.
administration tells you the truth has a bad idea.
Can I tell you what?
You have no ideas.
Antifa is a dangerous
All right,
radical
gentlemen,
group.
we're now moving on to the Trump
And
and
you ought to be
Biden
careful with
records.
them. They'll overthrow you.
When a president, I'm going to ask a question. When the president seeks a second term, it is generally a referendum on his record. But Vice President Biden, you like to quote one of your dad's sayings, which is, don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. And in this case, sir, you are the alternative. Looking at both of your records, I'm going to ask each of you, why should voters elect you president over your opponent? In this segment, President Trump, you go first, 2 minutes.
Because there has never been
Deathsinger, do you have a Twitter?
President who has done more than I've done.
I do.
Do you think you can post a handle in private
The
chat?
impeachment hoax.
Yeah, sure.
And you saw what
Cool.
happened today with Hillary Clinton, where it was a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things, where I had to fight both flanks and behind me and above, there has never been an administration that's done what I've done. The greatest, before COVID came in, the greatest economy in history, lowest unemployment numbers. Everything was good. Everything was going. And by the way, there was unity going to happen. People were calling me for the first time in years. They were calling and they were saying, it's time maybe. And then what happened? We got hit, but now we're building it back up again. A rebuilding of the military, including Space Force and all of the other things. A fixing of the VA, which was a mess under him.
Political, can you mail me some alcohol real quick? I need it.
He was a mess. And we now got a 90%
Understandable.
at the VA, our vets. We take care of our vets, but we've
What'd you
rebuilt
say?
our military. The job that we've done, and I'll tell you
Mail
something,
some
some people
alcohol
say
to my
maybe the
college
most
in the
important.
South.
By the end of the
Can I
first
mail you
term,
alcohol?
I'll have
Yeah, just like
approximately
right now. Just
300
ship it to me in like 3
federal
seconds.
judges
I
and
need
Court of
some.
Appeals judges.
Well, yeah, it
300,
probably won't be there for a
and
few days.
hopefully 3 great
Plus, they won't be able to
Supreme
pick it
Court
up till tomorrow.
justices. That is a record.
We
the likes
hashtag
of which
privatize
very
the
few
postal
people. And you know, one of the
service.
reasons I have so many judges, because President Obama and him left me 128 judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like, you just don't do that. They left 128 openings. And if I were a member of his party, because they have a little different philosophy, I'd say if you left us 128 openings, you can't be a good president. You can't be a good vice president. But I want to thank you because it gives us almost, it'll probably be above that number by the end of this term. 300 judges. It's a record.
Looking at both your records, why should voters elect you president as opposed to President Trump? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Under this president, we become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided, and more violent. When I was vice president, we inherited a recession. I was asked to fix it. I did. We left him a booming economy, and he caused a recession. With regard to being weaker, the fact is that I've gone head to head with Putin and made it clear to him we're not going to take any of his stuff. He's Putin's puppy. He still refuses to even say anything to Putin about the bounty on the heads of American soldiers.
Your son got $3.5 million.
And by the way, my son.
Wait a minute. Mr. President, your campaign agreed to both sides would get 2-minute answers uninterrupted. Well, your side agreed to it. And why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to as a ground rule, okay, sir?
He never keeps his word.
No, I'm not asking. That was a rhetorical question.
Cut the fucking mic!
I know, right? Then he'd walk over to Joe Biden's mic and yell in his.
For $300 to $400
At least that would be funny.
more. Just since COVID, you and the home, you got less. You're in more trouble than you were before. In terms of being more violent, when we were in office, there were 15% less violence in America than there is today. He's president of the United States. It's on his watch. And with regard to more divided, the nation can't stay divided. We can't be this way. And speaking of my son, the way you talk about the military, the way you talk about them being losers and being and just being suckers. My son was in Iraq. He spent a year there. He got the Bronze Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot. And the people left behind there were heroes.
Really?
And I resent.
Are you talking about Hunter? Are you talking about Hunter?
I'm talking about my son, Bo Biden. You're talking about.
I don't know, Bo. I know Hunter.
Yeah,
Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. He wasn't dishonorably.
Cocaine use. And he didn't have a job until you became vice president. Once you became vice president, he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow, and various other places.
True.
He made a fortune.
My son.
And he didn't have a job.
My son, like a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it, and I'm proud of him.
But why was he given tens of millions?
All right, but he wasn't given tens of millions. That is totally,
President Trump, we've already been
discredited.
We've already been through this. I think the American
As much as
as
people gathered here might not like Ben Shapiro, I completely agree with his take that we should move to trial by combat.
The mayor of Moscow.
I feel like that would be a much more efficient and productive method of deciding presidents at this point.
Worth taxpayers' money. That report is written for political reasons.
You know, I'd like to talk about climate change.
So would I.
Okay. The forest fires in the West are raging now. They have burned millions of acres. They have displaced hundreds of thousands of people. When state officials there blame the fires on climate change, Mr. President, you said, I don't think the science knows. Over your 4 years, you have pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. You have rolled back a number of Obama environmental records. What do you believe about the science of climate change, and what will you do in the next 4 years to confront it?
I want crystal clean water and air. I want beautiful, clean air. We have now the lowest carbon. If you look at our numbers right now, we are doing phenomenally. But I haven't destroyed our businesses. Our businesses aren't put out of commission. If you look at the Paris Accord, it was a disaster from our standpoint. And people are actually very happy about what's going on because our businesses are doing well. As far as the fires are concerned, you need forest management in addition to everything else. The forest floors are loaded up with trees, dead trees that are years old, and they're like tinder, and leaves and everything else. You drop a cigarette in there, the whole forest burns down. You've got to have forest management.
What do you believe about the science of climate change, sir?
I believe that we have to do everything we can to have immaculate air, immaculate water, and do whatever else we can that's good. You know, we're planting 1 billion trees, the Billion Tree Project, and it's very exciting.
You believe that human pollution, greenhouse gas emissions contributes to the global warming of this planet?
I think a lot of things do, but I think to an extent, yes. But I also think we have to do better management of our forests. Every year, I get the call, California's burning. California's burning. If that was cleaned, if you had forest management, good forest management, you wouldn't be getting those calls. You know, in Europe, they have forest cities. They're called forest cities. They maintain their forests. They manage their forests. I was with the head of a major country. It's a forest city. He said, sir, we have trees that are far more, they ignite much easier than California. There shouldn't be that problem. I spoke with the governor about it. I'm getting along very well with the governor. But I said, you know, at some point, you can't every year have hundreds of thousands of acres of land just burned to the ground. That's burning down because of a lack of management.
Sir, if you believe in the science of climate change, why have you rolled back the Obama Clean Power Plan, which limited carbon emissions in power plants? Why have you relaxed?
Because it was driving energy prices through the sky.
Why have you relaxed fuel economy standards that are going to create more pollution from cars?
Well, not really, because what's happening is the car is much less expensive and it's a much safer car. And you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what would happen, because of the cost of the car, you would have at least double and triple the number of cars purchased. We have the old slugs out there that are 10, 12 years old. If you did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper by $3,500.
In the case of California, they've simply ignored.
No, but you would take a lot of cars off the market because people would be able to afford a car. Now, and by the way, we're going to see how that turns out. But a lot of people agree with me, many people. The car has gotten so expensive because they have computers all over the place for an extra little bit of gasoline. And and I'm okay with electric cars too. I think I'm all for electric cars. I've given big incentives for electric cars. But what they've done in California is just crazy.
Vice President Biden, I'd like you to respond to the president's climate change record, but I also want to ask you about a concern. You proposed $2 trillion in green jobs. You talk about new limits, not abolishing, but new limits on fracking, ending the use of fossil fuels to generate electricity by 2035, and zero net emission of greenhouse gases by 2050. The president says a lot of these things would tank the economy and cost millions of jobs.
He's absolutely wrong, number one. Number two, if in fact, during our administration, the Recovery Act, I was in charge, able to bring down the cost of renewable energy to cheaper than or as cheap as coal and gas.
Was there
and
something
oil.
about like
Nobody's going to build
K-shaped recovery earlier? Did I hear that right?
Yes. Yeah, that would. Yes,
what
you
does that?
hear that.
Wait, what does that mean? I was like thinking long and hard on that.
He never explained what that actually meant. Oh well, no, he said something about
their electric vehicles, making
about
sure we can do
basically
that
the rich getting richer, and I guess it's like
the highways that we're going to be
the
building
lineup is the rich, and then everyone else is just zigzagging down. I guess I don't know.
But the thing is, the rich are getting richer, but the poor aren't actually getting poorer.
Weatherized in a way.
It's just the rich are getting richer.
The rich are getting rich. No, everybody is on average getting richer. It's just getting richer is not the same as getting rich.
To create thousands and thousands of jobs. We can get to net zero in terms of energy production by 2035. Not only not costing people jobs, creating millions of good paying jobs, not $15 an hour, but prevailing wage, by having a new infrastructure that in fact is green. And the first thing I will do, I will rejoin the Paris Accord. I will join the Paris Accord because with us out of it, look what's happening. It's all falling apart. And talk about someone who has no relationship with foreign policy. Brazil, the rainforests of Brazil are being torn down, are being ripped down. More carbon is absorbed in that rainforest than every
he's
bit
shitting
of
on
carbon that's
Bolsonaro
in the United States.
Oh, okay,
Instead of doing something about that, I would be gathering up and
Everyone,
making sure
all the anti-FGWs embraced Bolsonaro to own the
$20
roads.
billion. Here's $20 billion. Stop.
Super. Yeah.
Bolsonaro, I feel like, was a necessary evil for Brazil.
Have significant
because it was between him and a Marxist.
What about the argument that President Trump basically says that you have to balance?
In retrospect, I would have taken the Marxist.
And economic interests, and he's drawn his line.
Well, he hadn't drawn a line. He's still
Bolsonaro hasn't even done shit as president. He's been like sick the whole
methane's
time.
not a problem. We can you can now admit
even
I don't think
even before COVID.
This is a guy who says that you don't have to have mileage standards for automobiles that exist now. This is a guy who says that.
How much time you get left in the debate? I need homework. I have homework to do.
Here's the deal about the Green New Deal, and it's not $2 billion or $20 billion, as you said. It's $100 trillion.
I'm talking about
where they want to rip down buildings and rebuild the building.
No,
it's the
that is
dumbest,
not-
most
that is
ridiculous.
not-
Where airplanes are out of business, where two-car systems are out, where they want to take out the cows too. That's not true either, right? This is a
That is true. That's what the Green New Deal
That's
said.
more money than our country could make in 100 years if we're
not
going
the case.
All right, let me
destroy our
because I
country.
actually wait a minute, sir. I actually have studied your plan, and it includes upgrading 4 million buildings, weatherizing 2 million homes over 4 years, building 1.5 million energy efficient homes. So the question becomes, the president is saying, I think some people who support the president would say that sounds like it's going to cost a lot of money and hurt the economy.
What it's going to do is going to create thousands.
Okay, I just
of
realized
millions of
something, and I
jobs,
feel really
good-paying
stupid.
jobs.
Let him finish, sir.
What?
Do that.
Are you guys ready?
The fact is, it's going to create millions of good paying jobs, and these tax incentives to people to weatherize.
So I just realized
get rid of.
It literally just occurred to me.
Economy much safer. Look how much we're paying.
There's
now
no audience
to deal with the hurricanes.
No, there's
To
70
deal
to
with
80 people.
For hurricanes, he said maybe we should drop.
But yeah, there's no
Never said that.
That's
at all.
he did.
Yeah,
say
there's
that.
no
Like
massive
70 to 80
audience
people.
though.
It's very small.
It is a very different feel because in previous debates, you would have people say things and they'd clap or boo, and this is just a very quiet, almost intimate thing. It's
It
just
reminds me of how the debates originally were.
Billions of dollars on
This is how it should be.
the
Way better
Kennedy
without
Nixon,
the
like the
audience.
Kennedy Nixon
real
debate.
trouble. Look what's happened just
Or
in
like,
the
dude, literally Trump. Biden and Bernie had a debate in April.
Yeah, that was pretty good. No, I think that was pretty good from what I
Return to this format. There should never be a fucking audience
We make
again.
up 15% of the world's problem.
Wasn't there like ketchup
We,
and
in
stuff?
fact, but the rest of the
What?
world.
I thought there were like
come along.
condiments
That's why we have to get back
in front of them.
into
They were eating.
back
I don't know.
Sandwiches, I don't know. Just
All right, gentlemen.
All I remember is that
Why
there
didn't you do it for
that
47
debate.
years?
There was
You
something
were
having to do
vice
with
president. Why
ketchup.
didn't you get the world? China sends up real dirty
China.
to there. Russia
But
does,
China.
India does, they all do. We're supposed to be
But
good. And by the
China's-
way, he made a couple of statements.
Do you guys like
The
eating
Green New
chicken
Deal is
fajitas?
$100 trillion.
That is not
20
my
billion.
plan.
That's
The Green
well,
New
you want to
Deal
rebuild every
is not
building.
I like fajitas, but not whatever the heck that was.
He
Fajitas?
made a statement about the military. He said I said something about the military. He and his friends made it up, and then they went with it. I never said it.
Okay.
That is
What
not
he
true.
did is he
You're done in
said
this segment.
he called
Mr.
the
Vice-
military
Mr. Vice President,
stupid bastards.
I
And he
did
said
not.
it
Okay,
on
yeah,
tape.
no, he's
He
taking that
said,
out of
Mr.
context.
Stupid
Please.
bastards.
dude, it's so obvious as a joke.
Stop.
Play it.
Go ahead.
You're
Mr.
on
Vice
tape.
President answered his final question.
The final question is, I can't remember which of all his rantings.
I'm having a little trouble myself, but and about the economy and about this question of what it's going to
I
cost.
love Trump's little
the
grin.
economy.
I mean, the Green New Deal and the idea of what
I don't like anything about this guy.
The Green New Deal will pay for itself.
I love
as
that
we
he's a
move
shit
forward.
poster.
You're
It's
not going to
amusing.
build
It's
plans that,
entertaining.
in fact, are great political.
I don't
plans.
find it entertaining anymore.
you support.
No, I don't support the Green
Oh,
New Deal.
you don't? Oh, well, that's a
You
big
let-
statement.
I support
That's the radical left.
I,
That's
su-
done.
I support
you
the
don't.
Biden plan that I put forward.
Okay.
The Biden plan, which is different than
The
what
Biden
he
doctrine.
calls the radical Green New Deal.
All right, gentlemen, final segment, election integrity. As we meet tonight, millions of Americans are
Did you say final segment? Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah,
we're
I
going
know.
to vote early. How confident should we be
Oh,
that
boo.
this will be a fair election? And what are you prepared to do over the next 5+ weeks? Because it'll not only be to election day, but
Oh, it's only like 5
some
weeks.
ballots
Oh.
after
I
election.
already
so
voted
close.
today.
What are you prepared to
So-
do to reassure the American people that the next
Election day
president
isn't even really a
will
thing
be the
anymore
legitimate
at this point.
winner of this
Yeah,
election?
no, here in Texas, you have early voting at least 2 weeks beforehand. So
No, we started voting a
ivovote.com.
week and a half ago.
Decide how they're going to vote, when they're going to vote, and what means by which they're going to vote. His own Homeland Security director, and as well as the FBI director, says there is no evidence at all that mail-in ballots are a source of being manipulated and cheating. They said that.
Oh,
The fact
speaking of
is
which,
that
did you
there
hear
are
about
millions
Ilhan
of people
Omar's
because
district?
of COVID that are going to be
What did she
voting by
say?
mail-in ballots.
Did you hear about
like he
Ilhan
does, by the
Omar?
way. He sits behind the
No.
Resolute desk and sends his
Yeah,
ballot to
apparently
Florida.
there was stuff in
Number one. Number
ballots.
two, we're going to make
Like,
sure that those people who want
They were
to vote
tampering
in
with the
person
ballots in
are
order to
able
help
vote
her,
because enough
and it
poll
was
watchers
actually
are
caught
there
on
to
camera.
Make sure they can socially distance. The polls
Mind
are
you,
open
it
on time,
was
and their
released
polls
by
stay open
Project
until the votes are counted.
Veritas, which is not
And this is all
necessarily the
about
most
trying to
reliable
dissuade
source.
people from voting
Project
because
Veritas is
he's
fucking
trying to
stupid.
Yeah,
scare
no,
people
but it
into
was
thinking that it's not going to
live
be legitimate.
footage, like actual
Show up
footage.
and vote.
So
You will determine the outcome of this election. Vote, vote, vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote in person. Vote whatever way is the best way for you, because he cannot stop you from being able to determine the outcome of this election. And in terms of whether or not when the votes are counted, and they're all counted, that will be accepted. If I win, that will be accepted. If I lose, that'll be accepted. But by the way, if in fact he says he's not sure what he's going to accept, well, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter, because if we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going to go. He can't stay in power. It won't happen. It won't happen. So vote.
I really like what he's saying. He
You
could have
have
gone
control
super
to
duper Trump's
this
gonna
country
try
to
and
look like the next 4
stave out
years.
all of
It's
the
going to
cringe
change
takes about how
4
Trump's
more
gonna
years
do a
of these
coup,
lies.
and he can actually
President,
stay in power. No, he can't.
No, he
It's
was.
not-
Do
talking about.
you know what he was doing? He was trolling when he
There's
said
been
that.
no
Like he was
transition
totally
from
trolling.
But the people, but I'm talking about the people who on Twitter and on the far lefties who will say that.
after me trying to.
Yeah, no, the military is just going to come in and remove him.
Well, not even the military, just like the Secret Service will just say, "Sorry, sir, you're no longer the president."
The Secret Service. The Secret Service don't really serve Trump. They're basically the Praetorian. They're like the Praetorian Guard in the Roman Empire.
We've got it all on tape.
Like they'll take out an emperor.
They do not serve
the emperor's being shit.
General Flynn.
Yeah, they do. Well, not quite like that, but they don't. They don't serve any particular president. They serve the office of the president. They both present and past. They protect past presidents, vice presidents as well.
Soliciting, you're asking, they send it back, send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country.
So I actually really like what he said.
Found them in creeks. They found some with the name Trump. Just happened to have the name Trump just the other day in a waste paper basket. They're being sent all over the place. They sent 2 in a Democrat area. They sent out 1,000 ballots. Everybody got 2 ballots. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. The other thing, it's nice on November 3rd, you're watching and you see who won the election. And I think we're going to do well because people are really happy with the job we've done. But you know what? We won't know. We might not know for months because these ballots are going to be all over. Take a look at what happened in Manhattan. Take a look at what happened in New Jersey. Take a look at what happened in Virginia and other places. They're not losing 2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost with that. They're losing 30
the entire purpose of the Praetorian Guard was exactly what you said.
And it's a shame. And can you imagine
the purpose of the Praetorian Guard was not to serve the emperor. It was to serve the office. And then they take out a shitty emperor and then a new one will come in.
The election, in theory,
that's basically what would happen in the Secret Service and like the intelligence community and everything if Trump decided to stay in office. Outreamer, would you say that Trump was probably trolling when he said that he was going to, I could just stay in office?
But in 2018, in the last midterm election, 31.
I don't think so. I think he genuinely believes some bullshit at this point.
Voting. That was a quarter, more than a quarter of all the voters that year cast their ballots by mail. Now that millions of mail-in ballots have gone out, what are you going to do about it? And are you counting on the Supreme Court, including a Justice Barrett, to settle any dispute?
Yeah, I think I'm counting on them to look at the ballots, definitely. I don't think, I hope we don't need them.
Imagine the Supreme Court just like looking at every single ballot and be like, what do you guys think? This one look legit? Yeah, this one's good.
Today, where at least 1% of the ballots for 2016 were invalidated. They take them. We don't like them. We don't like them.
But
they throw them out.
If there are millions of ballots going out
what you do is you go and vote. You do a solicited ballot. No, that's okay. Or you go and vote.
I'm asking you about the fact that millions of people.
You go and vote. You go and vote. Like they used to in the
millions of people.
You either do, Chris, a solicited ballot where you're sending it in, they're sending it back, and you're sending. They have mailmen with lots of. You see what's going on? Take a look at West Virginia. Mailmen selling the ballots. They're being sold. They're being dumped in rivers. This is a horrible thing for our country. This is not going to end well.
Okay.
This is not
Vice President,
5 states had mail-in ballots for the last decade or more. 5, including 2 Republican states. And you don't have to solicit.
Hey, Outreamer, you're getting a lot of background feed into your mic.
They're saying is that there has to be a postmark by the time, by election day.
Outreamer? Okay, there you go. Thanks.
Day 9, it still should be counted. He's just afraid of counting the votes because
you're wrong.
You're
wrong.
I'm going to continue with you on this.
I love counting the votes. It's my favorite thing. Counting votes, my favorite pastime. Wonderful.
This has been a complete shit show. Outreamer, have you been keeping up with this?
Yeah, I've been watching it. It's
hilarious.
Ballots are thrown out because they
but okay. The one thing I will say, this is the setup is how a debate should be.
So man, your whole thing has been roboting for me this whole time. So
the Supreme Court with a Justice Barrett will settle any dispute.
I've been roboting.
Concerned that any court would settle this.
Yeah, it's still roboting in the background. I can hear you guys fairly lucidly, but
I hear politically just fine. I haven't had any
I think
issues.
he was talking about him. He was
talking that this is me. You should be able to, if in fact you can verify
the setup. I like
before the ballot
because there's no audience and everything. It reminds me of like the JFK Nixon debate, except it's with Trump and Biden
dotting the correct I. Who they voted for, testify, say who they voted for, say it's you. That is totally legitimate.
All right.
Excuse me, Chris, when you have 80 million ballots,
I have a final
sending
question.
and swamping the system, you know it can't be done. You know it can't, and already
all
there's
right.
been
So now,
fraud.
Mail service delivers
wait a minute, gentlemen. Final question is, in 8 states, we can keep talking. In 8 states, election workers are prohibited currently by law, 8 states, from even beginning to process ballots, even take them out of the envelopes and flatten them until Election Day. That means that it's likely, because there's going to be a huge increase in mail-in balloting, that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is, that it could be days, it could be weeks,
could be months,
until we find out who the new president is. So first for you, sir, finally for the vice president, I hope neither of you will interrupt the other. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm during this extended period, not to engage in any civil unrest? And will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has been independently certified? President Trump, you go first.
I'm urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it. As you know, today there was a big problem. They went in to watch. They were called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia, bad things. And I am urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair election, I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell you what,
does that mean,
from a common sense,
does that mean you're going to tell your people to take to the street?
It means you have a fraudulent election. You're sending out 80 million ballots. They're not equipped to. These people aren't equipped to handle it. Number one. Number two, they cheat. They cheat. Hey, they found ballots in a waste paper basket 3 days ago, and they all had the name military ballots. They were military. They all had the name Trump on them.
Vice President
you think
Biden,
that's good?
Vice President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted, and will you pledge not to declare victory until the election is independently certified?
Yes, and here's the deal. We count the ballots, as you pointed out. Some of these ballots in some states can't even be opened until Election Day. And if there's thousands of ballots, it's going to take time to do it. And by the way, our military, they've been voting by ballots since at the end of the Civil War, in effect. And that's what's going to happen. Why is it for them somehow not fraudulent? It's the same process.
He is right here.
It's honest.
Like, honestly, the whole mail-in ballot, like,
that there is
anti-mailing ballot.
No, it's completely stupid. It makes no sense.
Like, I mean, I understand that there are genuine complications that come with it, which is why I vote in person every single time I vote. I think I've only ever done one absentee in my life. But still, it's not what Trump is saying it is. And the thing is, like I was saying earlier, it's basically, at this point, politics is just a game of Halo. It's just red versus blue.
That'll be the end of it.
No
That'll be the end of it.
Principle or anything.
Me, in fact, if it's not me,
like,
I'll
if
support
the
outcome.
Republicans reform mail-in ballots, the Democrats would be against it, just like it is now. Like, this is something that should not even be politicized.
I want to see an honest ballot count.
Gentlemen, you say that's the end of it? This is the end of this debate?
Honest ballot count.
We're going to leave it there. To be continued as in more debates as we go on. President Trump.
Boy.
Vice President Biden, it's been an interesting hour and a half.
Oh, more debates? Oh, no.
For participating.
How many more are there?
In the first of 3 debates that
Three.
you've agreed to engage in.
Oh, my goodness.
He answered my question.
Next month.
Thanks, Chris Wallace.
Hosting this
He answered my question right away.
by the Commission on
Thanks,
Presidential
Chris.
Debate.
3 debates over the next.
October 7th
Well,
at
to
the
be fair,
University
one of them is a vice presidential
in Salt
debate.
Lake City. The 2 vice presidential nominees, Vice President Mike Pence and Senator
Oh,
Kamala
no.
Harris, will debate at 9 p.m. Eastern that night. We hope you watch. Until then, thank you and good night.
Okay, so I'd say everyone who's watching, stick around for another
debate of 2020.
I don't know, 20 minutes or so. We are going to
interruption.
Oh wait,
where
hold on.
bullying, where the former vice president of the United States said of the president, "You are the worst president America has ever had." Biden appeared to become prepared for the night. Trump seemed perturbed. And so Trump's strategy tonight was to interrupt, to try and steamroll.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna spend the next, I don't know, 20 minutes or so, 10, 20 minutes or so, just recapping that shit.
All right.
What? Okay, so in one word, starting with you, Alkazei, how would you describe whatever it was we just watched?
That
wasn't a word.
You stole what I was gonna do. That's that's exactly my sentiment, man. That's
Okay, Outreamer, how would you describe it?
Well, I don't know. Do you want a serious analysis, or you just? I don't even know how you would.
Does it deserve a serious analysis?
Yeah, I just.
Yeah, let's you be serious man here. I genuinely want to hear a serious take from you.
All right. Well, I guess I would describe it as I was surprised that Biden was as lucid as he was. I thought we were going to get some kind of a hookup somewhere in the debate. It seemed like he was stumbling at several points, but I'm just wondering how much they must have tranked him up to actually perform like he used to 10 or 15 years ago.
You mean like Adderalled him up?
I have no idea. Whatever they pumped him full of, I haven't seen him debate like that, honestly, since 2008. But
oh yeah, totally.
In terms of the actual debate itself, it was very angry. It was very personal. They went in hard and, going after people's families, even in, the context of a country like this. It's an either or. I think you only really come away looking good like that if somebody comes after your family first. You know what I mean? Like if somebody, I think Hillary did this back during the original campaign where she started in one of the debates talking about Ivanka. Or
no, she had nice things to say about the Trump kids. I remember.
I
remember in the debate she was like, "Oh yeah, kid's really like successful or something. I've known Ivanka for years." Like, and then said like nice things, and then said, "But you, Donald Trump, I can't." She said something like, "I can't believe that you raised these people." It was something like that. So
I
it
can't
was a big.
remember exactly what it was, but
she was complimenting his family, but
well,
I
think I'm going to take your word on that. But I'll take your for the sake of argument, I'll take your word on that. But in this debate, bringing this forward to 2020, I mean, in many ways, I mean, the whole division is right there up on the stage. But that's nothing new. I mean, we all sort of knew that we were going to see a pig fight.
Oh, totally. No doubt about it.
In terms of like Trump himself, I didn't really see anything that I didn't expect. I mean, he got up there and he basically went at it with his 100-word vocabulary exactly the way he did back in 2016. I think I'm surprised. It seems like he didn't really practice.
No. He was just doing. It basically seemed like a reboot of. It just seemed like a rebooted debate from last time. Except, honestly, I prefer. I mean, I prefer Biden on this. I like seeing Biden better on the stage than I do seeing Hillary.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Is that
he's
style.
He's a lot more likable as a person.
Well, he's not. He has a record that's every bit as controversial, but people don't.
No,
know.
I just mean like his personality. His personality is a lot more likable.
Yeah, he's more personable. He comes across as. I mean, he's been sort of like portrayed as Creepy Joe, but if you didn't know that about him, you'd probably think of him sort of like your bumbling grandfather or something like that.
Exactly.
He doesn't come across as the Wicked Witch of the West or have a cackling laugh or, he's got weird habits, but being weird is not the same as coming across as, corrupt or something like that.
But then again, what politicians aren't weird? Like I
know that's one of the things. It's
like Ted Cruz is.
Yeah. I know.
And then Rand Paul has a perm.
We're getting off the point of the politicrat. I don't want to end up like we did last time where it's 5 hours. So what we need to just to bring this point back down to earth, I don't think that strategy works. It works only against somebody that the country hates because the country enjoys seeing that person get their comeuppance. I don't think that it actually works here, seeing it in action, because it just comes across like it's very depressing. It doesn't come across like, Shane at high noon riding into the gunfight at the OK Corral, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid style. It doesn't come across like gunfight. It just comes across.
Come back, Trump.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he's riding into the sunset. Goodbye, little Billy.
Divisive. It comes across as depressing. You could really just taste the anger and the hatred between the political left and the political right embodied on that stage.
I know, like from your perspective.
So what?
I want John McCain back.
Well, I don't. I mean, but there you go. So, yeah. I mean, that stage was more or less a metonym of where the country is. It's just people are going to vote for who they're going to vote for.
Everyone's decided at this point.
Yeah, I don't think that the debates are going to fundamentally change people's minds.
I already voted, so
yeah. Well, I haven't, but yeah, it's going to be one of those sorts of things. I don't really think there's really a set. I hear people that say that they haven't made up their minds. I think they made up their minds.
They totally made up their minds. Okay.
I don't really think there's a center left to return to.
So, Deathsinger, what about you? Your analysis.
Do you want serious or memes? What are we
Serious.
going for here?
Let's
All
go
right,
serious.
Serious take. All right. I think that honestly, so for just a little background, I come from a right wing and have moved further left. So if I were to think about this from right wing me of 2016, I would probably be like, oh yeah, Trump really owned Biden. Because when Trump was rolling over Hillary and like interrupted her and you'd be in jail and like all those other great memes and stuff that came out of it, the right and I at the time eats that up. It's like, oh yeah, got him. So I don't think anyone pro Trump or voting to Trump would be changed by this. From a independent perspective, I think honestly, from perspective of someone who is genuinely either undecided or doesn't know, or I don't know how you couldn't at this point. It's been so divided. It's been 4 years of incredible division.
What's your opinion on the wall? Are you on the fence?
On the wall? Oh, I don't know.
You're such a retard. You just missed the most obvious pun in the world.
No, I got it.
I said are you on the fence?
Can I give a serious take now? Because I do have a serious take.
Yeah, go ahead, Alkazei.
I think this debate looks better for Biden because
yes, 100%.
Most people, unless you're like a diehard Trump guy, like Trump just looked desperate as all hell, grasping at so many straws.
Yes.
And then like he fucking attacks his son for like a drug addiction, which is such a fucked up thing to do. Considering
the guy who snorts Adderall.
Yeah, also his brother Fred Trump was a massive alcoholic, so like Trump knows like how
like Trump doesn't even drink alcohol. I know.
Yeah, because of Fred. Yeah. So it's like how can you do that earnestly and think like, yeah, this is a good debate tactic.
Yeah, no, from I was going to say from an independent perspective, from an objective standpoint, I think that this debate clearly goes to Biden. He actually seemed, especially considering how much the right has gone after his like mental condition. It's like every single time he stumbles over words.
Honestly,
like,
I've seen the far left do it more than the far right, but the right totally do it.
Well, yeah, no, the right in like general does it, and then on the far left, the ones that specifically hate Biden, the like Bernie or Busters,
Kyle Kalinske,
Jimmy Dore,
Dave Pakman, sort of, but not really.
Yeah, no, Dave Pakman's the type who would mention it if it's not like go hard. I'm pretty sure he's actually voting for Biden.
Basically, Dave Pakman is like a regular progressive, but then you have someone like Kyle Kalinske who's like a populist.
Yeah, Kyle, that's a whole. But that's just all sidetracked. I think that Biden looked, especially considering, like I said, the state of how like everyone has been putting his mental decline at, he looked really good. Like he genuinely looked sharp at points.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
It like actually like still there. And like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe he had a bit of drugs in his system. Who cares if he's operating it efficiently? I don't give a crap. You think?
Well, I mean, I disagree with the point on the drugs, obviously, but
I'm joking on that point. But I think in general,
I agree with the general zeitgeist that I think Biden came out. I don't think it's disputable that Biden came out much stronger.
Biden won the debate. Like,
I wouldn't say he won the debate. I think both guys walked away black and blue. But
yeah, but if I had to pick a winner, I'd say Biden.
Well, I mean, that was the thing is that the expectation was we were going to come out and we were going to see Biden essentially have some kind of a mental breakdown, and that didn't happen. He showed, it's like
all Biden had to do, based on the perception that people had placed him in, was not to do that.
Yeah,
and then he didn't.
It's like Mike Tyson fighting, or Conor McGregor comes out and he's fighting. This rookie starts fighting like Mike Tyson, and they bloody the living crap out of each other, and they call it. And they both walk away from it. Nobody's really but you're just like, holy shit, what did that rookie just do? So it's one of these sorts of things where I think that people are going to come away with. I think Biden is going to come away looking the better in that debate.
Yeah, or at least have a more positive impression of him, even if they
have to finish. Bye, boys. Thanks for having me. I'm gonna go cry.
See you, man.
Let's see.
I think that even for people, probably not the diehards Trump fans, but people who are like holding, like say like conservatives are like holding their nose looking for Trump, I think that this still makes Biden, like at least softens Biden somewhat to them, just because of the optics of it all. For the conservatives that do definitely exist, that are like, I don't like Trump, but I hate the left wing policies even more. I think that Biden comes out of it still like looking good.
Let me put it like this: one, there's three things that I think throw this particular debate in Biden's favor, and it's going to be interesting the next couple of weeks because they got two more to do, and I don't think this tactic is going to work for Trump. So he's going to have
the vice presidential debate too.
I think there's three areas that essentially put this in for Biden. One, Biden came out as lucid and cogent, and he was able to hold his own, or at least he was. Two, Biden is not Hillary Clinton.
True.
And three, Trump does not have the sort of groundswell online populist support that he did in 2016.
No, because people now see that he's a bit of a fraud.
Well, it's not just that; it's that he has not successfully supported his populist base over the last 4 years. He's made so in many ways he's running.
He's basically been sucking up the conservative ink.
Well, yeah, he's been streamlined by Conservative Inc., and they don't have the ability to. I mean, I was just watching this thing the other day with Dennis Prager and Ben Shapiro and Adam Carolla, all doing this Dave Rubin doing this cancel con thing, and they've got this utterly cringy.
Who's Adam Carolla again?
He's the comedian who's like, oh, I'm a conservative comedian. Now all you go ha 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 ha. But so Trump has lost a lot of his sort of meme-worthy base from 2016.
Oh wait, are you talking about like Cancel Con or whatever it was?
Yeah, I'm talking about that. Yeah.
Oh, I'm making a YouTube video of that, and their opening was like some very cringy animated.
Yeah,
it was like social justice.
That's the sort of quality of the campaign that he has now. It's all corporatized. It's all inauthentic. It's not coming from the people. It's coming from people that he's paid off. And that matters because
he's been hijacked by the establishment.
If you fuck up in front of your people, if you have public support, they might be able to smooth things over for you. They might be willing to essentially overlook things. They may even be able to make a joke out of it and turn it into something that makes you look better as a result. But if you don't have that, then, or if you're essentially just an establishment candidate, if you don't have love, then you better have respect, which Trump doesn't have. So I think that those are the three factors that I can immediately identify playing in.
Who's yelling in the background? Oh, somebody's yelling. Anyway, Deathsinger. So what would you say big differences between Trump's current campaign versus Trump last time around?
I mean, I would say I would tend to agree that there was this like particular energy that Trump was an outsider, but now he's kind of been there. And also the fact is that to his populist base, there's a lot of things that haven't really panned out. Like the wall hasn't really panned out for them. I mean, I guess the economy did pretty well. Stuff on healthcare, he's kind of been like back forth, wishy-washy, doing like one thing and then saying he'll do another thing and then go back and forth. Like he campaigned on like, oh, we're gonna pull out of the Middle East and stuff, right? Do the the populist message, and then
he was the peace candidate. He was literally
he was the peace candidate, and then he didn't follow through on that. Which, while I agree that geopolitical stuff is actually more complicated than this is simple pull out of everywhere message. Duh. But yeah, that was what he campaigned on. A lot of the things didn't really pan out because it turns out things aren't that as simple.
Yeah, that's not
catchy one-liner.
Like that's the thing is like what his base wanted him to do, and what
he didn't really follow through on a lot of things.
And remember, he's not 20% of Bernie supporters ended up switching to Trump.
Exactly. So you really think that those people that flipped, like Michigan, you remember those Rust Belt states? Those were close, very, very close. That was probably the Bernie supporters that flipped over to him.
Totally. And same with a lot of the people in Western, because like a lot
people
of
who would normally vote Democrat.
Yeah.
And they thought he was the worker candidate.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah. I completely forgot about that sort of thing. His like the help the workers kind of stuff. There's been some like big item things that he said that have been done, but overall, the like getting jobs back and stuff hasn't really panned out that well.
Not at all. No.
Yeah. So like all of his stuff that won him that like working class support just isn't. It didn't pan out. So I honestly I'd put it at like at least like 80% for Biden at this point. There's a chance, but with COVID, like especially like with that, like I really struggle to see because we all know how much the current state of affairs and especially the economy and all that stuff affects a presidential election. Even in situations where the president didn't directly have anything to do with it, which we could all we'd all agree Trump definitely didn't handle things the best of COVID. Probably.
No. I honestly don't know a single person who thinks he did, except maybe
there are some people.
Except maybe Dennis Prager.
I don't really know them. I don't know them. I know that there are people out on the crazy people out on the interwebs. But yeah, it's gonna be a really, really slim chance. Which I know that. People will point out, the predictions in 2016, they got CuffPo, like putting Hillary at 99%. Yeah, but the polls were like pretty close with within the margin of error.
I'm gonna see I'm actually gonna check right now what Drudge says. I'm going to the
and I'm fairly certain, yeah. The actual polling for 2016 was fairly accurate, and within the margin of error, it was the predictions from like pundits that were wrong.
It was the areas that they got off. So, but yes. I mean, that's not the critical thing. The critical thing is where where the defections are going to be coming into this new cycle.
Yeah, and I don't think because it was really the Rust Belt that pulled him out in 2016. I don't think that he'll keep that. I don't think that he'll keep those states at all. So yeah, I just don't think his campaign has just any of the semblance of what it had in the past.
I think wrong on that. I think that it has new advantages, but I also think, for one, if Biden says you ain't black one more time, he's going to lose the election.
Wait a second. Does this make sense? So I'm trying to go to the Drudge polls right now, but it looks like somebody hacked the website. Take a look at this.
Well, we're getting a little bit off topic.
No. I was going to check the polls, but take a look at this.
Go ahead. That's funny.
What?
Take a look at Drudge right now.
I'm looking at the screen. That's like, what?
Dude, you might want to be careful. If this is 4chan, there might be a virus going through that site right now. Just saying.
I just clicked out. I did not click a single thing.
All right.
Yeah, if we're looking at polling averages, if I go over to 538 with their aggregate, they have the aggregate is Biden at 50.2 and Trump at 43.2, which if that aggregate does carry through, that like the margin of error of that's the margin of error is not going to carry the +7.
I think what we're going to see, I think there's new advantages. I think there's old advantages. We'll talk more about that maybe later this week, Politicrat, if you want. But without going too far into it, right now, I honestly can't make a prediction. I think it's a coin flip. And I think but again, see, this is the thing, is like that's what I would have said slam dunk Hillary 2016. And then everything sort of flipped. But how's it going, man? But the mathematics are not the same this time around. So we'll see. I think that I agree with Deathsinger. I think that there's old factors that are no longer present, but I also think there are new factors that are present. So we're looking at a different battlefield, in other words.
Totally.
So
no, yeah.
I mean, certainly, yeah. No, it 2020 is for everyone who likes to meme about it's just 2016 over again. It's really not.
No.
So,
do you think it's worse?
It's still a clown fiesta, but it's a different clown fiesta.
If you want to but I mean, that's a larger discussion for another time, maybe later this week. If you want to put a note on that, we can come back to it. But as far as this debate goes, I mean, I would say it was generally a shit show. Neither candidate came away looking good. Between the two, Biden came away looking less worse. I'll say that, just because we expected so little and he was able to punch above his weight. He was able to punch above what the general zeitgeist had thought we were going to see. Like what we thought we were going to see was we were going to see a man in the middle of late dementia getting up there and having difficulty stringing together sentences. And again, I haven't seen him debate like that since 2008. So anyway, that's my piece on this. I will leave it at that.
All right. Does anybody have anything else they want to add?
I mean, I assume by anybody else you mean me.
Yeah, I do. I mean you. I mean you.
Yes, I agree. It was generally just an absolute mess. I am somewhat tentatively looking forward to the presidential one because I do genuinely want to see like how Kamala Harris handles herself. Because if we're gonna be honest, in the last debate, she kind of got her
Kamala Harris
got her piece handed to her.
She's just not. Nobody likes Kamala Harris. That's the thing. Like they are forcing her on us.
I will say,
third tier candidate at best.
Yeah, I will say while she may not be like the most liked candidate, I don't think, other than like people on the far left hate her for various reasons. I don't think
I hate her more than I hate Trump.
I think for the general public, she's not a hated candidate, but she's also not like a liked candidate.
No, I mean, she's not a likable person, like in general.
Yeah, she's not. She's got that same kind of like.
All right, man. Well, I'm not going to get too much into the VP debate, but I'll catch you later. All right.
All right. Yeah, I think this is a good place to end. So, good night, guys. Good night, Deathsinger.
Yep. Night.